rise and shine.
I'm the leader of the Repeal the 19th.
I think it was awesome. Sorry, whoever's offended by that concept, I don't care. I thought it was awesome.
Because we have a tendency to think that way around here.
My nigga.
Y'all the ones bringing this stuff in here, but I'm the poster child for it.
Where are you from, bro?
Oh, I'm from Tennessee.
Oh, that's a sick accent, bro. I haven't heard that before. That's awesome, dude.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
And you're trying to get a controversial statement out of me. But
come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Bring your ass.
Hey.
You serious?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Game On. This is your Sports Morning Espresso Shot. I'm your host, Will from Game On. He's Cricket from sportspicks.locals.com, and we're here to bring you the latest and greatest going on in the sports world. And today we will have a special guest. Robert Barnes will be making an appearance here shortly, but until then, we're going to catch up on some sports news, and we've got some big NFL news, a lot of activity yesterday. Today is the NFL cut deadline, 4 p.m. Eastern. Teams got to cut down from, I think, 90 plus players all the way down to 53-man rosters. It's here. Football's back, baby. But first, Cricket, how we doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about a good show today. Yeah, Uncle Bob going to roll in here with us. It'll be here about 8 Eastern this morning. So we're going to get in here and talk some football, pick his brain a little bit. Excited about it, man. But you're right. Football is back. I love it. When they start to cut down them rosters, man. We're just a week or two away, man.
How do you feel about that rule? The new rule, they changed it, right? They changed it from each week during the preseason, you'd have to cut a certain amount of players. And now they said, you know what, we're going to let you keep all your guys, and then you can make all your cuts, by the deadline.
I like it. I like it, man. I feel like, you got some of these guys getting cut after the first preseason game or something. Could have just had a bad game. Some of these guys go out there and they've obviously kind of right there on the fence, maybe making the roster, go out there and have a tough game. That person, they usually wind up getting cut and just kind of throws their chances out. You should have a little body of work there because you're going to get your time to play in those 3 preseason games. I think you should judge the overall body of work because you might be able to see some things those last couple games you wouldn't have got to see normally. So I do like the fact that they're letting all the guys stay on the roster until a certain period, then you cut all the way down to 53. I do think that it provides for a better product, and it allows these coaches to get a better look at some of these guys.
Absolutely. By the way, I am dropping the links to all the things here in the chat. We have we're doing some contests this year, and we did it last year. It was a lot of fun. We do a pigskin pick'em. You got to pick every game against the spread over on ESPN. Come join our group. We got 27 strong in the pigskin pick'em. That's right. Let's go. See. And then we do an eliminator challenge as well. Or it's Survivor. They call it eliminator. It's Survivor. But I'm dropping these links. Sorry, that's why I'm distracted. So what you do is in our Pick'em league, you got to pick every game against the spread each week. Lines are posted by ESPN, so we all are picking from the same lines. And then what you do is you just pick that, and whoever has the best record at the end of the season wins, and you will win a free jersey of your choosing. Any player you want, we'll ship it out to you. And then probably some Game On merch too. I'll probably throw in some extra stuff because I do have the merch store created, and I'm slowly working on grabbing some things there. So there's those. I dropped it both in the YouTube side of things, the X side of things, and of course Rumble. Speaking of Rumble, let's say hello to our good friends over on Rumble this morning. Pissant's in the house. He says, good morning, Pissant. Miss Marlene's here. Good morning, boys. The wise sage of sports betting making a special appearance. That's right. Pissant's, if it wasn't for Tyler on WNBA, I wouldn't be down 5 units, but would be down 5 units, but I ended up 2. Atta baby. That's what we like to hear. Loki's in the house. He says, morning. Dickhead 12's here for Robert Barnes legal advice.
That's right.
You're gonna get.
I got a new favorite name in the chat, man. Let's go. I don't know how much legal advice you'll get this morning, but that man definitely dropped some knowledge on you there. So welcome in, Dickhead. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
That's just fun to say, ain't it? Welcome in, Dickhead.
We need to bring that back more. I feel like I don't hear enough.
People don't get called a dickhead enough. That's fair. They don't get called enough to Generation Too Soft, man. They can't.
It's not even. That's like tame for nowadays,
I'll tell my kid.
You're going to get canceled for calling someone a dickhead.
My dad did it to me when I was a kid. If I was acting a fool, hey, man, quit being a dickhead. Part of it.
Yeah. Don't act like a dickhead. and you won't get called a dickhead. We got 7 strong in the eliminator challenge. We need to get some more people in the eliminator. So if you guys want to join those contests, those are the link. It's fun. It's free. So what do you got to lose, right? So go check that out. Right. Loki's in the house. He says, good thinking, dickhead. Blue's here. Blue, what up, buddy? Pissant says, whoa, Loki, coming in hot. Patriot 4165's in the house. Good morning, buddy. Good morning. Here's what we got on the menu today. When Robert joins us, I got a couple questions for him. A couple NFL topics, but we're going to dive into the world of college football and some of the big college football games and so forth. But before then, Cricket, let's rapid fire. There's one big major NFL news coming from yesterday, and it has to do with Patriot 4165's team. But I want to rapid fire through this. So I'm just going to read these off to you because I don't think that most of these are that important, but they're NFL news. So, for example, Titans are sending Malik Willis to the Packers in exchange for a 7th round pick. Okay, he's back up.
Interesting.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
Juju is actually expected to sign with the Chiefs. There's a photo going around with him. There was a photo of him going around of him like when he had his Patriot jersey on and when he was with the Patriots like 3 weeks ago. Underneath it, you could see through the white, you could see a Chiefs logo. So maybe he's always wanting to head back to Kansas City. Why wouldn't you, dude?
Why wouldn't you? They just gave you a ring and stuff. I mean, that was kind of fake news to me because like I think Juju's obviously much past his prime there, but good for him, man.
What do you think about this? I thought this is a more interesting angle. People are saying maybe this is the Chiefs knowing that they're going to get some bad Rashid Rice news.
It could be. It could be
I
that.
saw mixed things. I think this is just Juju wanted to come back to the team that he's most familiar with and have a chance to win, actually. So I don't think it really has to do with Rashid. I also saw something about Rashid Rice. Some guy got suspended for something, for a DUI. Some guy, I can't remember who it was.
Jordan Addison?
Jordan Addison, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I do have that pulled up here. He got suspended for a DUI 6 games, but they're saying that Rashid Rice, rumors are Rashid Rice isn't expected to get any suspension because he's a first-time offender.
I don't think it should matter. Well, that does matter. But at the same time, if you're street racing out there, you caused a multi-car accident, that's every bit as dangerous as driving around. I don't care if you were drunk or not, man. It's like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I was surprised it was 6 games. They're policy, that stuff, drunk driving, should never do it. That's just it's bad all around.
Yeah,
even if you get away with it and nothing bad happens, not good. But 6 games, man. I thought that's like a 2
Feels like a lot, don't it?
Yeah, for
I mean,
some of the other stuff,
these guys will be beating their wives and girlfriends and stuff and dragging them down the steps by their hair and everything. And they'll give them like 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I think DUI is a very bad thing too. You are breaking a crime and you are putting people in danger, putting yourself in danger and all that stuff. But it feels a bit extreme.
It does.
The legal process will play itself out, and he'll get punished that way too. And it's like, I feel like that's a little extreme.
Yeah. Morning, Buku. Loki, that is hilarious. He says, "Well, I heard a rebuttal to your opioid bit. Tweeter on Varsity Blues said Vicodin and 2 Percocet and panties drop. God, I love Varsity Blues.
He'll say it's nice." Tweeter.
Speaking of that, thank you for reminding me. I wanted to plug this real quick. The Uncensored Pharmacist here. If you guys want to go check that out, I've got 2 live streams up. This is just a video clipped out of it. It's a new channel that I'm starting. You can ignore all this other stuff that I did years ago.
Watch him. Hell, do what you do.
Yeah, do whatever you want. It's all old news and stuff though. But yeah, I'm having some fun time over the Uncensored Pharmacist, getting a lot of good feedback, getting a lot of good views and likes and stuff like that. Gained 231 followers with 2 streams, so that's pretty cool.
Let's go.
And shout out to Rumble too for giving me some exposure on that. But if that's something you're interested in, what I'm gonna drop the link to that right there. I go live and I talk about certain healthcare topics, whatever's on my mind or what's ever big news and whatnot, and we'll cover some things because I feel like the reason why I created this channel was one, for an outlet for me to vent because there's so many crazy things that go on in the healthcare world that I'm just like, what are we doing? But also I feel like our generation, the younger generation, definitely doesn't understand how screwed up the healthcare system is, because why would you? You're not in it. You don't have to worry about it. But I want to shine some light onto it so we have some more awareness. So I'm going to plug this a couple times, throughout the week, maybe even later today if we get a bigger audience viewing in, which we've got 600 of you, over 600 of you guys in here hanging out with us. We appreciate that. But Uncensored Pharmacist, I go through some things. You're going to hear some things that you won't hear from other healthcare professionals. I'm not saying I'm right on everything. I'm just going to give you my lived experience.
No,
There's plenty of people that disagree with me on stuff. That's fine. That's the world we live in. But and you should push back on some things. But like one of the next topics I got us to talk about is going to be you know, how these drug studies aren't really. A lot of these drug studies, you can't just read the headline, right? So, for example, for years, they went on to tell you that statins medications are very beneficial and help you prevent cardiac events and stuff like that. But now we're finding out that that's not true, but we might have always known that. But big business and big sugar wanted to go the other route. So things like that. That's what I got planned for one of the next upcoming shows. They're sporadic. I don't have a set schedule. It's just whenever I get free time, hop in for about an hour and do a show. So there's that there for you.
Love that, man. And for any of you new folks, shout out to Rumble, taking such good care of us, man. Getting you the eyes on us, everything. For those of y'all that might be here to see the great Robert Barnes, he will be in here with us in just about 15 minutes, coming in about 8 Eastern time to talk some football and give us his opinion on whatever he may want to talk about there. I know you got some questions for him, so he'll be in here shortly, y'all. We're not clickbaiting you.
Yeah, no. Dalvin Cook flying out to Dallas, huh? That's interesting. I guess we're just gonna. Dallas doesn't collect all the washed up running backs.
They
Used to be
got
great running backs.
a retirement home full of running backs down there. Jeez,
well, Zeke's going to be the first down back, and Dalvin will be the second down back, and then
yeah, so it's going to take 3 running backs to complete a series.
That's funny.
It's all right.
I feel
they did something. Oh, you're not there yet. Keep going as you were.
Yeah, Cleveland is expected to leave Nick Chubb on the physically unable to perform list, which means he won't be eligible for the first 4 games of the season. I feel like this is not a shock to anyone.
No,
I thought it would have been a long stretch anyways for him to come back week 1. Apparently he is out there. He's doing drills. He's looking good for a guy coming off the surgery that he had. But I mean, probably give that guy as much rest as he can.
I think that's a very smart deal. You know, he had toward the other one back in when he was at Georgia, back I think 2015 or 16, something like that. But yeah, I think you want this guy. You obviously know you got a great squad up there in Cleveland. This guy's a key part of you actually making a run at this thing. And I'm telling you right now, man, I'm looking at thinking kind of taking a gamble on Nick Chubb a little earlier than most in some of these fantasy drafts coming up, because I think when Nick Chubb does come back, especially him getting the extra month off there, I think he's going to be primed, ready to go, man.
Absolutely. I think he's going to surprise some people. I really do. But let's get to the big news. Let's get to the big news, huh?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Let me bookmark this because I might clip it out. Boom. Big news out of Dallas. It finally happened. Dallas Cowboys CeeDee Lamb come to an agreement. And whoops, this is the wrong one. Hold on. Oh, do I not have it up here? Did I accidentally click out of it? Oh no, it's right here. Breaking news out of Cowboy camp. CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys come to an agreement. They get a record 4-year, $136 million contract. Makes him the second highest paid non-QB in NFL history, right behind Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. Now, some people, one thing I want to talk about this is that a lot of people, and this is what I've heard from Cowboys camp, a trusted reporter that has been there in camp. He claims that this was never about the money with this deal, meaning they agreed. Like the market in the NFL is kind of the market, right? If you're a top 5 guy, you're going to get top 5 money, and it's not who you are, it's when you are. So when you're up for contract, you're the next guy that gets paid all that kind of big money, whether you're quarterback, wide receiver, left tackle, whatever. Running back, not so much, because usually they're past their prime when they're ready for a contract. But the deal with this was they agreed on the average per year salary, right? They agreed like whatever is 34 million. They were fine. CD was fine with that. What Jerry wanted to do, Jerry wanted to do what he always does and lock these guys in for a 6, 7, 8-year contract.
Yep.
Why? Because Jerry is, I mean, a lot of people don't like the dude and think he's an idiot, but he's actually very smart, especially when it comes to business. Why do you lock a guy like this, a number 1 wide receiver, in for 6, 7, 8 years? Because you know that the salary cap in a year or two is going to be up over 300 million, and that cap's just going to keep going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And the next, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a wide receiver in the next 2 seasons sign a contract where he's the number 1 wide receiver in the league, and he gets 40 million per year. You know what I mean? So
that's what JJ's getting right now.
Yeah. I think he's getting 35 per year.
Oh, I thought he was 4 years, 140 million. Oh yeah, I guess 35.
But
it would be 35. Yeah, that'd be 35. Yeah. 4 for 160 would be 40 a year. So
yeah. So Jerry knows like this. These if you're going to get a guy, a top 5 or wide receiver for a majority of that time, you want to get all of his prime. You're going to pay him good money, but he wants to, and it's attractive, right? Imagine if he would have signed like so he signed a 4-year 136. What if Jerry would have come in and said, hey, we'll give you 8 years, 270. You see that big 270 number, right? And you're like, dang, that's a lot of money. But so I could see why someone would just take that guaranteed now. And, because of risk of injury and whatnot. But CD, since he is still, young and whatnot, he wanted a 3 or 4 year deal contract. Why? Because he wants to be able to hit the market or renegotiate his contract when he's still in his prime. I don't think he'll be 30 yet by the time this deal's done. So that's smart on his part. Now he's gambling a little bit, but then again, you're saying, well, you're getting a 100 plus million. And if something bad happens and you just end up sucking and not being a top 5 wide receiver, you still got paid, right? So you're good. You're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah, the record. I mean, it's about time. About time. We thought this guy should have been paid. We know he's one of the best players in the league, and I'm not so sure. We love Justin Jefferson. Know how great a player he is, but I'm not sure that CeeDee Lamb is even a step behind that guy. And in my opinion, maybe with the quarterback that he has at his disposal with Dak, is probably better.
What's the first thing you think of when someone says CeeDee Lamb? What's the first thing you think of?
I don't know. I'm probably not going to give you the answer you want. I mean,
I always go back to draft day when his girl was trying to take his phone and he snagged that right out of her hand and said no.
Hey, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind?
Yeah,
but yeah,
I don't think she's around still.
Probably not. But
now,
the record. It was a record signing bonus here.
38 million signing bonus. Yes, it's the biggest signing bonus that anyone's got. So he got paid. He's happy. Now, are you worried about this, Cricket? Are you worried about? So we've seen before with these, like Debo was the most recent I can think of these wide receivers that hold out and wait, and then they get signed right before the season start, but then they didn't go through football camp. I'm not saying the guy doesn't know how to run routes and stuff like that, and I'm not saying he's not in shape, but there's football shape, and it seems like these guys are at higher risk for injury after not going through a whole month of prepping for what your body and what you got to get ready for. And then obviously reps with Dak. I mean, they have a connection, but you want to get back in. I think they still got a couple of weeks that they'll be fine.
Yeah, but CeeDee, it ain't like CeeDee's been laying on the couch eating Cheetos, man.
I know, but there's football shape.
There's football, there's game speed. You got to get back up to all that and everything. But the guy's in incredible shape. He's been working out and all that stuff. You're not sitting here screaming for $140 million and not doing what you're supposed to do just because you don't want him to say yeah and then come out and look like a piece of shit after you sign that big deal right there. CD's going to be just fine, man. I think so. It's about time that they paid him. About time. Jerry, we know Jerry's from the old school there, and he don't like to renegotiate contracts and all this stuff. But here's the thing, they talk about
Jerry has said he likes to drag them out through the summer.
Yeah,
make it dramatic and keep it.
We've seen this for a decade now with a plethora of players that have come through this organization for this guy. So he's going to do this. We talk about the salary cap going up every year, but also the worth of these franchises are going up every year. Cowboys now worth over $10 billion. So it's like, Jerry, shut up and pay the man. Come on.
Well, poor CD. It looks like he's getting a lot of money, but he really isn't. Because if you look at this, Cricket, this is how it breaks down. $34 million per year from the team. $12.6 million goes to federal taxes. $1 million goes in jock tax. I don't know what that is. $1 million goes in agent fees. $800,000 for FICA/Medicare, and then no state income tax, so he doesn't even have to pay state. So without a state income tax, he still only walks away per year $18.6 million. How's this man going to live?
I don't know how he'll survive, dude. I don't think he'll make it.
Yeah,
I feel bad for him now. I feel bad for him. I feel sorry for him. Poor guy.
Yeah, damn taxes, man.
These contracts are ridiculous, bro.
Yeah,
it's not the NBA, but it's ridiculous.
I mean, but come on, Uncle Sam getting $12.6 million. Uncle Sam wasn't in the weight room with him all those years. What would
Uncle Sam got the best agent of anybody. I'm just saying. Uncle Sam always getting paid.
Yeah, he's got the law enforcement behind him. I'm gonna go refill my cup before we get started in this next thing, but I'm gonna throw a chat out here with you. Look, he says, are you gonna post contests on X or Sports Picks? If you're talking about the contest I just shared, I did post them in Sports Picks the other day, so it is there. I will repost them multiple times on X and in the Game On community and the Sports Picks community, so no doubt. But I'll be right back.
All right, buddy, do you think? Hang on, chat. Oh, our guy Tom Bong's in here. He says, Who gives a F about these Roman games of the past, you dumb effing sheep? They're just there to distract you and entertain your little tiny brains. Well, I'll tell you what, Time Bong, we must entertain your little tiny brain quite a bit, man, because you got to make sure to pop in here 3 or 4 days a week and say the same damn thing. I'm not even sure if you're smart enough to come up with something else because you say that same damn thing every time. And I'll tell you what, bro, you need to smile more. You seem real upset and angry about a lot of things. You need to smile more. And yes, Loki, I will take care of that today. When I get off here, I will post all these contests, the links to all that stuff over on Sports Picks. We'll share on the X, and we'll do all that stuff.
I love you, buddy. Don't ever change, Time Bong. Please
don't ever change, man.
Please just be yourself.
Stay true to yourself, man. Yeah, maybe just kind of.
Did you see this, Cricket?
A little more.
Did
creative.
You see this?
What?
We had history yesterday. Where's it at? The first time in MLB history, a player has officially played for 2 different teams in the same game.
Whoa. What?
Yep. Danny Jensen played both for the Blue Jays and for the Red Sox in the same official game.
I didn't even know that was legal.
Well, here's how it happened.
Most of the time it's not possible because you're not playing the team you're getting traded to there, so you'd have to travel across the country or whatever. But this is crazy, bro.
Yeah, it took it took special circumstances. So this game was originally played back before the trade deadline, I believe in June or July. Got suspended midway through the game, and he was on the Red Sox. He since then got traded to the Blue Jays, and they resumed the game, the official game yesterday, and he was on the Blue Jays. So that's how it happened.
Okay, I was sitting here, I was like, did they send him to the other locker room to change jerseys in the 4th inning or something? What are we doing?
No, because we're way past the trade deadline, right? So.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, how is this even possible? But that makes sense. That's pretty crazy, though.
Yeah.
The fact that's never happened is pretty nuts. You got to have a lot of things kind of come together there to make something like that happen. That's pretty nuts. Shout out Danny Jansen, man. Got your name in the record book.
And real quick, while we got all you guys here, let's talk about something real quick. Let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about True Social, huh? We got an account over at True Social. You can give us a follow there at Game On Show. Go check it out. Big Tech is suppressing free speech everywhere, and it's clear their censorship campaign is going to get even worse. Without free speech, we won't have a free society. That's why you need to dump the big tech bosses and join Truth Social movement today. At True Social, you can get all your news and opinions, set up or join groups based on your hobbies or interests. If you're into sports betting, or you got a sports community, you do that. If you're into betting the ponies, you can get a little ponies group going over there. That'd be fun. And make yourself heard on any issues without being squelched by big tech censorship. Join the network that is the leading platform for direct, unfiltered access to Donald Trump's social media posts. If you want instant access to all of Trump's announcement plans and reactions to the biggest issues of the day, Truth Social is the social media platform for you. Break free of big tech suppression, strike a blow against cancel culture, and reclaim your right on America's premier free speech social media platform. Join True Social today. And like I said, we have an account over there. I need to post more over there, but I mean, I've been trying to look. I post today stuff over there. Go check it out at Game On Show. So go over to truesocial.com, sign up, and once you do, go give me a follow at Game On Show, and I'll give you a follow back. How about that? True Social. Go join today. Break free from big tech censorship. Booyah. I love ad reads.
You getting better at those. Knocking those out, man.
Wait till we get to do my favorite one later today. I just got a fresh bag in the mail. I got it out last night. It's sitting right next to me. I brewed that thing up this morning.
You're making me start to wonder what they're putting in them coffee beans, man. They grow off close to something else, man.
Hey, don't change. Don't ever change. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Don't ever change. Will, did you see the letter Zuckerberg sent to Jim Jordan? I heard all about that. We'll talk about, maybe we'll bring it up on
who's Jim Jordan?
Speaking of big tech censorship, he admitted that Facebook was censoring.
Who's Jim Jordan?
What is he? He's chair of the House committee. He's one of the big Republican leaders in Congress.
For any of you new folks in here, I don't know anything political. I'm not that guy. They're probably like, "Who's this fool? Doesn't know who?"
I feel like you've come a long ways now, though.
I have come a long ways. I'm learning things.
You are. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that,
man. My friend.
I'm working hard.
Sorry, I'm just getting some of these lines pulled up and whatnot.
You're good. Uncle Bob should be making his way in here in the next few minutes, so we'll get to rolling. We'll talk some of this stuff. I know I'm excited to hear some of his opinion. I know you got some good questions for him and everything. We got some things we've been interested to hear his opinion on, so that's gonna be a lot of fun here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, chat. I do want to announce too this. So each year we do we enter into these super contests, and we'll have a show specifically aimed. It might be the Saturday morning show. It might be a new time altogether. But we enter into there's a Circa Millions contest, right? Where you see actually it's right here, Circa Millions. They have the biggest contest in Vegas, actually I think in the country for sports betting. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, you have to be in Vegas to originally sign up, and then you can get a proxy and whatnot. But one year, I'm going to enter into the Circa Millions, and it's going to be fun. It's $1,000 entry and whatnot, and the guy that wins it gets $1 million. There's like $6 million in guaranteed prizes this year. But we use other contests, other sites, the same thing. It's pick 5 picks against the spread each week. And what we're going to do is we do a show where we all get together and we bring in, you'll see like other people that we stream with, like, the Patriot Sports guys like Chris, Eric, or AK Millie Goats. I invited him this year. Doesn't mean they're going to show up each week, but they will have a contest entry here. And last year, I actually, on the Bet Online one, I ended up placing 7th. And my score would have actually got me 2nd in the Circa Millions. So
let's go.
And I would have won the thing if I just reversed every single Saints pick that I made throughout the season.
Yeah, well, you got to drop that closet Saints fan.
But yeah, I placed top 10 last year. It was a lot of fun. It was a good year. This year, we're going to do this. Patriot last year got an entry into this, and Patriot, I will extend an entry to you again this year if you want it, sir. But we're also going to do a chat entry. So whoever shows up to those shows, chat, you hop in, and we're going to just take the best picks, the most, what everyone in the chat agrees on, even if, majority rules in that one, but we'll make a chat entry here. And so as the show's going on, you guys can drop the picks that you like, and we'll enter into the contest, and we'll see. And the idea is, you just go all season long and try to see whoever has the best score at the end of the year.
Absolutely, man. We'll have to do somewhere we keep a list of the different people putting picks in there and stuff, and help them out with that entry. Because if they were to wind up putting one together and winning some little money, we'll make sure and do something real nice for you folks that help.
Oh yeah, if the chat entry, or honestly, if any of our entries end up winning this thing, if my entry or whatnot wins, I mean, first place is $18,000, but I think like the top 500 plus end up getting paid out something. But yeah, if the chat entry ends up winning something, you better believe it will go back to all you guys over and we'll post it, we'll send stuff out to you guys in the locals community and stuff like that. But I'm excited for that.
I love that contest, man. Like last year was the first chance I had to experience that with you guys, man. That's a lot of fun right there.
It is. It's one. Like I said, I listened to these guys for years that do this, that live in Vegas, that enter into the contest, and they talk about their picks, and it's something that I enjoy, and I'm like, this is something we can do, right? This is something. So that's why I created that show for contest picks, specifically, and it's been fun, and it's one of the things I look forward to most each week. Speaking of looking forward to,
speaking of it,
looking forward to talking to our guest today. Robert, how are we doing?
Good.
Good morning,
Glad
sir.
to have you in this morning. It's bright and early. You're a champion for getting up this early. I'm just crazy. I do this every single day, but 5 a.m. That's awesome. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, sir. How's everything been going? I know you've got a lot going on. It's a big year for you with the election and all that stuff going on, but you getting ready to get primed for a big football season and all that. You excited?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were past week 0, had some good bets up on week 0. Week 1 now for college football as we approach Labor Day weekend. The goal will be to do this throughout the year, catch as catch can, but hopefully Tuesday mornings here to do like the cover 10 games, something like that each week, the 10 most interesting games in college football, and probably in the future we'll do 5 college football, 5 NFL. Give you our picks and previews for each of the games as a form of college football and other forms of sports betting sort of really starts to dominate in the United States. And then you guys probably can have we'll have ideas on player props or what you might be looking for before the lines are up. There's even going to be now college football player props in more and more markets and big games. There were some this past weekend that people barely missed on, and some others. Same with in fantasy football impact. You guys know that a little better than I do. So it'll be fun sort of week. We were off to a good. If you had a subscription to sportspicks.locals.com, where we help put the odds in your favor, you would have already tripled your investment in an annual subscription on an average just in the first 2 weeks. We usually put up 25 picks a week on world football, soccer, 25 picks a week between college football and when the NFL starts in the NFL. So you have 50 picks a week you can, pick from as you will like, but basically over 200 picks a month, 2,000 picks a year. We also have picks on political bets, picks on, is the Federal Reserve going to, raise rates or not, or drop rates, and where and when and how much, and all that kind of stuff on whether a judge will dismiss a case or grant a case. When those, Polymarket has all these betting markets up now, so you can bet on all kinds of things.
I love that about the community. You see the specific people in there that focus on just the political bets, and because I'm so used to seeing sports stuff, and I'm like, oh no, there's people that just love the political stuff, and I like it too. I bet on it too, so I think that's great. You get a
We've
little bit
also
of
seen a lot of folks come over and become sports bettors after that, and really kind of get into it. So it's cool to see that market growing as well.
And you get picks up from cricket, you get picks up from others of our members on prop plays, fantasy plays. Different sports that I don't even bet that often: hockey, golf, tennis, rugby, you name it. A lot of people have good contributions. People will put up all the different bonus picks. I mean, I think Major Wedgie, who's always put up interesting picks.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he introduced me to like college football teasers. Went back and looked and realized, holy cow, we'd made a huge profit if we'd been betting some of these in the right way. But he'll do like the boost that DraftKings and others offers. And I mean, this is past weekend. He nailed another. He did a boost that had a higher odds but got paid out more than 2-1 cash, right out of the gate. So so it was fun. We were on the underdog side week 0, so it was cash on that side of the aisle. Of course, the bet. I don't know if it'd be a bad beat of the year. I've had worse bad beats, but I gave out Florida State, Georgia Tech first half under 28.
Oh yeah.
Some people got it. It spiked to 28.5. And some people got it 28.5. I got it at 27.5. I always tell people to shop the lines, but I got impatient. So took it 27.5 because I started thinking about it. I was like, 28, that almost never hits in the first half. It's got to be like 28-0, 21-7, 14.
Right.
That's really not that common. 27 is a more common first half number than 28. So I was nervous about it dropping to 27. Because you think about it, so there's not a lot of 25-3, 26-2, 15-13.
And if I told you, Robert, your bet comes down to a college kicker in a kind of a sloppy, wet game has to make a 59-yard field goal, you'll take that bet every single time.
Not only that, if you add it up, I was like, how the heck did Florida State even get to 14? Well, how am I on a field goal?
It was 11-7 at one point.
Because they went for 2 on their first touchdown. They came down, scored first, got cocky, went for 2, nailed it.
They had to get a 2-point conversion. They had to get a 52-yard field goal by the longest field goal guy. Never kicked a field goal over 50 yards. As you noted, rugby field, wet rain, windy conditions, and then a 59-yard field goal. And
there's something in the air over there in Ireland.
So you had to have a 2-point conversion and 2 50-plus yard field goals in a rain-soaked college football game.
All I gotta say is, luck of the Irish, my ass. But yeah, so it'll be fun. We'll be getting to review some of these upcoming games this week when we really get American football kicked off and started.
Absolutely. I get a little superstitious with some things that I'm not super comfortable with betting. So like this year, I dove in for the first time and I didn't give out any of my picks into preseason NFL betting. And let's just say you take the unders early on. That was great. But I ended up going 21-5, 20-5 in this contest. I'm leading this contest right now, and I'm pretty pumped about it.
Awesome.
Once I started winning, I'm like, dude, should I give out my picks to people in here? I'm like, no, I'm going to keep it to myself because this is working. And you shouldn't bet on preseason football anyways. And I was only doing like 1-unit bets on them. But it was a lot of fun. But I wanted to ask you before we get into the NFL stuff or into the college football stuff and previewing the games, have you looked into the new kickoff rule and how do you feel about it? Because here's the stats from the preseason compared to last year's season. And one angle I have about this that I think, from betting wise, that we could take advantage of. Everyone and their mother understands that this statistically should lead to a little bit higher scoring. So I feel like we're not going to get an edge there. Betting the totals on that. I mean, betting the over and totals anyways, you usually not you're on the side of the public, and so you're not getting the best value. But I think what people aren't understanding about this is that means these teams are going to start out with better field position. So players, their stats actually are going to go down in the games. If you can, angle it that, they're starting on the, 30 instead of the 25, that's 5 yards that are going to be lost there. So a wide receiver you might have some value betting their player props under, or, if you got to pick and choose your spot, but maybe you take like Tyreek and Waddle, you bet them both under, hoping that, one of them's going to go under. Cause Tyreek can go off for 100 and something yards any given game.
Play.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the kickoff rules, and what do you think about kind of looking towards player props under on some of these with the new rules?
That's a very interesting take, because I'd seen different analysis as to whether it would impact. We would definitely get more returns, but would we get more yards? Would we get return touchdowns? And people that had done the deep dive that I had seen were predicting maybe a slight yardage improvement, but that was we wouldn't see returns for touchdowns or things like that. It would minimize injuries is the other thing is that it was designed to do. But that's a very interesting take, that if you're getting better yardage, it's going to slightly trim the total yards in a game by up to 10 yards, 15 yards for the team. And then you aggregate, you add that, and that's going to come off somebody's numbers. So somebody's passing numbers, somebody's rushing numbers, so that's an interesting take. And then whether or not it adds a half a point to the game total on average.
I'm seeing that they're saying it's going to add a point on average, is what the consensus is, about a point in scoring.
That would seem just a little high to me, but because the flip side is you get a little bit better position. You don't drive down and score. The question is, will punt return teams on average be getting worse field position?
Yeah.
So figuring out how that would factor in, because a team doesn't, do they on average progress when they're punting also 2, 3, 4 more yards? And then how does that play out? Does that give them a little bit? Does that put the other team in a worse position?
So, more chances of teams going for it on fourth down, because you get one first down. So they're projecting, the new average starting position in the preseason. It was almost 29 yards. They're saying about 30 is what they're expecting, compared to 26 last year. So you're looking at 3 or 4 more yards in field position. But you get one first down or two, and you're at midfield, and with analytics and everything, you might have teams going for it more, which means they don't get it, then now, you're starting at midfield for your drive instead of, back at your 20 or 25 when you normally would. So it kind of cuts both ways there. But yeah, that is good angle there.
It could be a double-edged sword with something like that. You look at the fourth down attempts go up. You obviously, the drive could continue there and allow them more opportunities to continue, getting yards and things like that. But for those of y'all who don't know, if you player prop bettors out there, the player props are going to go under. It approaches about 70% of the time. It is much harder to do something than it is to not do something right there. So I think that it's at least early on, until we get a body of work on this kickoff rules and stuff. That's something you're really going to monitor. So maybe for the first month of the season, you really kind of be careful with your player props there. Kind of just, fill it out.
You're looking under.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. If you're going to do it, that's the way to do it. I wouldn't go just expect people to be putting up huge numbers early on right there, because it is going to tweak it a little bit right there, but it could be a double-edged sword. I would recommend more just monitoring it mostly for the first, 3 or 4 weeks of the season before you really started piling on those.
Absolutely. Robert, by the way, we're about to get into college football. Do you ever enter into these contests, like the Circa Millions or anything like that?
I did I think I've entered them twice. It used to be just the Superbook that had the big contest. So I've entered the Circa Millions once and entered the Superbook one twice. There used to be there still is a service, so that if you're ever out in Vegas and you sign up, then you can email or text your picks, and the service will enter your picks. So you no longer have to physically live in Vegas to participate.
Yeah, the rule is you can go. You have to be there for sign up. You have to fly in for sign up, which they just did this past weekend, was the big promotion week and whatnot down there. And then you can hire a proxy service, and they usually take a percentage of your winnings if you do end up cashing. And that is pretty cool, because then one year I want to do this, but someone like me would definitely need something like that, because I'm not heading down to Vegas every weekend to submit my picks. But they're fun. I think it's a lot of fun. We do a show each week. We have contests, so I buy a bunch of entries. over here. We do it on an online one. It's the same thing, just not as big as the Circa, obviously, but we have like an entry for the chat. So the chat during the show gets to make their picks. We bring on guests and stuff that people we collaborate with throughout the year. They come in during the show, they'll give their picks and we make entries, and it's a lot of fun. It's just, trying to find the 5 best games. You just realize how hard it is to narrow 5 picks each week. And I tell people, enter into some of these free ones, like over on ESPN stuff, so you can really appreciate how tough it is to pick the NFL each week.
Mm-hmm. Especially against the spread.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get into college football. So one of the first games that we want to talk about here is, I'm just going to I like pulling up the lines over here on Action. Yeah. We got a little sharp thing, but the first game, Robert, let's dive into North Carolina at Minnesota. And I'm going to scroll through and try to find this, but tell us, there it is. North Carolina is a 1.5-ish point favorite. Sharp money so far coming in on North Carolina. Big money coming in on Minnesota with 47% of the bets, but 65% of the money, and an Action Network expert back in the Tar Heels. What do you think about this game, Robert?
Yeah, that's interesting. But so this is a line that opened up for Minnesota, and some Carolina bettors were waiting on Minnesota -3. It was hovering Minnesota -1, Minnesota -2, and then some sharps came in last week on North Carolina that moved the line. When you see the line move, and especially flip from dog to favorite or vice versa, and the public's not the one driving the action, then that usually means there's somebody that the sports books respect who has either given out North Carolina, some of your influencers and handicappers that are out there, or not so much your touts, but the people that get Vegas respect, or somebody sharp put in a bet on Carolina at a major sports book, and the other sports books followed suit. So I think you look at it from a talent perspective, North Carolina is more talented than Minnesota. I mean, that's where, it was like a lot of people were saying things all year in the preseason, about Florida State or Miami or some of these other teams where they're, or in some cases, ignoring it, like Alabama. I mean, you go to 24/7 talent ratings. You wouldn't know it from the prognosticators in the press, but Alabama is the most talented team in the country. And they highlighted Saban being gone. They highlighted some players going in the transfer portal and forgot that's a two-way street in Tuscaloosa. And have just forgot that the most talented team in the country is still Alabama. And frankly, they have better coaches now. I know that'd be kind of a heresy to say in some parts of the country, but Nick Saban's or offensive and defensive coordinators outside of Steve Sarkisian and ever since the Georgia coach left, have underachieved with their talent level at Alabama. Not overachieved. The biggest.
I always thought it was amazing that Saban was able to be a top team every single year with usually replacing both offensive and defensive coordinator every single season.
More years than not.
Well,
yeah.
It helps to have by far the most talent in the country.
Right.
That's the most talent-rich roster anywhere in the country for basically almost 20 years, for 15 years. From 2008 to 2024, Alabama was usually number 1 in the country, talent-wise, in various recruiting rankings, and often by a good margin. That number 2 and number 3 often were a distance behind, and that's where, from my perspective, his coordinator. But the reason why this was sometimes kind of overlooked was often the offense or defense was not in top 10 on a random year. He didn't have both. And it's like, why don't you have both? You have NFL players top to bottom in your roster. You should be top 2, top 3, top 4 in statistical performance. Defensive coordinators had underachieved. He never was able to replace Kirby Smart on the defensive side of the ball. And then on the offensive side of the ball, other than Steve Sarkisian, which also was the most ridiculous roster maybe in the history of college football offensively. I mean, the number 4 running back on that roster is in the NFL. The number 5 wide receiver is in the NFL. I mean, one of them quite literally drove himself out of it, but that's another story. But I mean, just ridiculous talent. But now you bring in the Washington coaching staff, which quite frankly has done more with less than any coaching staff in the country the last half decade.
True.
And you give them that roster of number 1 talent. And people are forgetting that while they're hyping up Georgia, hyping up Ohio State, They kept telling you Florida State's offensive line was was one of the best in the country. It's like that's the same Florida State offensive line that couldn't move the ball against Louisville and Florida last year when the quarterback went down. Well, everybody got to see in Dublin. Oh, maybe that's not. So I like objective talent metrics. You can go to the various third-party sites. You can go to Phil Steele's magazine. You can go to 24/7, which is now an aggregator. So it takes everybody.
Got that right here, Phil Steele magazine, and we pulled up the digital version on the show. We've been looking at that throughout the summer. I've
been telling him, Uncle Bob, I got him turned on to that Phil Steele magazine. I told him you turned me on that a couple years ago, and that's the best magazine on the market.
Where is this?
Oh, yeah, it's great because he does his own talent recruiting. It's an aggregated talent recruiting rankings. 24/7, the same. And so you look at those talent ratings, and North Carolina is better than Minnesota. In fact, North Carolina is a good bit better than Minnesota. So I think probably the wrong team is favored and was favored in the game. Now the question is, Minnesota's been an overachiever until the last couple of years. Now the defensive coordinator is gone. They bring in a quarterback from New Hampshire. So I'm not big on the North Carolina train. I like Drake May, and he's gone. The offensive line has been shaky, but you can't do but better on defense because Chiswick's gone. And I mean, Chiswick had lost it 10 years ago. How Mac Brown still gave him a job was beyond me. That was some of the worst coordinated defenses in all of college football. So, and they have plenty of talent on the defensive line. Carolina's he's back to his first early days at North Carolina when he had guys like Peppers and the like who were just dominant on the defensive line. So if they get a defensive coordinator that's just competent against the Minnesota offense that wants to run the ball and needs to win the line of scrimmage, I think that it will be tough for Minnesota to win. I think Minnesota could have a losing season. So my pick for the show will be North Carolina -2.
Okay. I like that. I feel like the PJ Fleck love is kind of worn off too. More the hype around him.
The row the boat mentality is kind of slowed down a little bit. For me in this game, man, the biggest key is going to be which team can control the line of scrimmage here. Both these teams got great running back rooms. You got Omarion Hampton coming back to North Carolina there, which led the ACC last year with 1,504 rushing yards. So he's a 220-pound big guy that runs. He's got a 4.4 speed. So, I mean, the stud right there, probably going to be a future player on Sundays there. But Minnesota also has a very stacked running back room there. You look at a guy like Jordan Newman, who in his first start last year had 204 rushing yards against Michigan State, and he's probably going to be the number 5 running back in the room this year after the portal. They dipped into that portal pretty good there. We're able to pick up a few guys, Marcus Major from Oklahoma, C.I. Bangura from Ohio, Jaron Mangum from Michigan State. So all those guys have been starters at their previous schools coming in now. So you got a plethora of talent there. The offensive line for Minnesota is better than what's coming back for North Carolina. They lost some key pieces of that last year due to graduation or whatever. But the defensive line on the other side there, I feel like I give the edge slightly to North Carolina in this spot. So it should be an interesting matchup for me. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do on this. I'm kind of leaning Minnesota just due to the plethora of running backs there in that room. If Omarion Hampton was to go down, then you're looking at a guy coming in like Caleb Hood. He did have 4 starts in 2022. And you do add USC transfer Darwin Barlow there and True Frost Davion Gauss, who was Phil Steele's number 23 running back coming out of high school. So they got a lot of talent in North Carolina too. But you see a major step back if Omarion Hampton, God forbid, was to go down somewhere right there. Minnesota's got a lot of guys they can plug and play. Like I said, the guy that's going to be number 5 on the depth chart now had 204 yards in his first start last year against the Michigan State team, which is going to be much better this year. But I think it's whoever controls the line of scrimmage in this game is really going to be the one that can set the tone early there, maybe jump out to a lead and try to hold it off late. But I don't see any clear-cut advantage in this game for either team. North Carolina got the slight talent advantage there. But this is going to be a tough one for me. I may wind up staying away from this one altogether.
One thing I learned from week 1, or this past week in week 0, right, is no one knows anything about these teams. I mean, hence all the underdogs ended up covering. Shout out to Delaware State. Cricket told me not to take the 40 points. I said 40 points is way too much. Hawaii can't even score 40 points. Thank you. But so I tend to look towards dogs in this one. But I mean, if I do like betting the talent edge with college football, and if it's basically, it's a short line here, and if UNC does have the talent edge, what am I saying? I'm a degenerate. I'm going to probably be betting UNC on Thursday. I mean, let's be honest.
It's one of the first big televised games of the week.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to probably be on North Carolina there. But I don't have a strong feeling either way.
Before we jump to the next one, Will, we got some new faces here in the chat. Let's say hello to our friends. Some of them coming by to say hello to Robert and all that.
Yeah, what's up, Mail Order Bride? Good morning. Curious Carnivore, good morning. Oh, we got Arla Coast back in here. It's been a while. Bear the Machine Gun's here. What up? He says, good morning, fine people of Rumble. Good morning to you, Bear. We already said hi to official no name. Welcome in, guys. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're about to pass 6,000 followers. Robert, since the last time you were on New Year's Day, we've quadrupled our follower count. So we're moving right along, and we're excited for this football season. And before we get into the next big game, we got to do my favorite thing here. We are Robert running out of Rumble Studio. I just have it screen captured here on my laptop, so we can do everything out of StreamYard still. But we got to talk about my favorite Rumble product today, and I love reading these ads. We got to talk about 1775 coffee. I got it right here. I take this stuff, I brew the stuff up every single morning. It's amazing. When I go up there, I get the premium pea berry. All right, that stuff. If you're a man and you drink your coffee straight, unlike my co-host who puts a little bit of creamer in it, you drink it straight, the premium pea berry is for you. Trust me on this one. You're going to want the pea berry, but it comes as whole beans. So you got to grind it up yourself, right? But my favorite part is each night I grind that up, get it ready, and I'm smelling it. This stuff smells so good. I'm excited to wake up in the morning. Who says that? Who's excited to wake up at 3:30 in the morning? I am, because this coffee is that good. Have you heard about the recent advertising scandal? Let me break it down. The CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovski, shout out to Chris, recently released an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts. The email explicitly states that the right-wing culture of Rumble is too polarizing. Okay. All right. Whatever you say. In other words, Dunkin' Donuts has a problem with right-wing culture and wants nothing to do with it or Rumble. So here is the solution. Stop buying products that don't support you and start supporting brands that support you. That makes sense. That seems like a good plan. The competing coffee brand that we all need to get behind is Rumble's 1775 coffee. They've got, for a limited time offer, Rumble's offering buy 2 bags of coffee and get 1 free. What a steal. I'm about to do that today because I want to get, my wife likes the medium roast. She's not a real big fan of the pea berry, but she also uses creamer, so I get it. All right. She's like my co-host here. But you get 2 bags and you get 1 free. That's called closing line value in our business, and that's a great deal. So if you can scan the QR code on here or click the link or just go directly to 1775coffee.com, enter the promo code Dunkin, Dunkin. I love that they're trolling Dunkin' Donuts on that one too for the promo code to get this limited time deal. That's buy 2 bags, get 1 free. 1775 coffee over on Rumble. Go support these companies that are fighting for your free speech and support companies like Rumble, and you get delicious coffee along the way. I'm telling you, this stuff is great. So 1775coffee.com, use the promo code Dunkin, and you'll buy 2, get 1 free. Robert, I love these ad reads. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I had this coffee up at the convention with Chris Pavlovski, the CEO of Rumble, and it is good. I'm a bit of a coffee snob, and it is good. And obviously, we got to dunk Dunkin'. I mean, it's amazing. Dunkin' Donuts should be blue collar. My dad used to go there. We used to get, he loved those eclairs and whatnot. And now they become communist in their, marketing and advertising. It's just ridiculous.
Every big company has, it feels like.
Awfully woke.
Yes, exactly. But now, next game, North Dakota State, Colorado. I'm intrigued by this one. This one, it might be the one time that I bet Colorado this year, but man, you just see the big name at North Dakota State, and I know they're not the North Dakota State of old, and maybe that's why the line is what it is. But how do you feel about this game, Robert?
Yeah, this is interesting. It's down to single digits. Some people thought it might get under 7, and we're waiting on that. Some Colorado backers. It's how you feel about Deion Sanders, and he's very divisive in the football betting world, divisive in the football world. Last year, of course, went in and won straight up as a huge underdog against TCU. Took a Colorado program that had been awful for several years, but used to be one of the best college football programs in the country back to the 1990s. This will be sort of, we live in the transfer portal era. It was one of the things watching a lot of the other handicapping shows and a lot of the other sports prognosticators and in the press that I thought there was a lot of undervaluing this year, which is we're now in peak transfer portal era. And what that means is programs that are completely new, programs that have new coaches, a massive turnover. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. We saw it with New Mexico against Montana State. We saw it with Nevada giving SMU a tight game. as massive underdogs, both of them only losing in the last minutes of the game. It's first year coach can completely turn over a roster now and bring in a whole. It used to be a first year coach taking over a down program. It would take them 2-3 years to get their players in so they could make a difference. Now they can go handpick guys that fit their scheme.
I like it this way better, by the way. I mean, I think I like I'm more for, player empowerment. And so the transfer portal and transfer rules, I like it. If they want to bring a bunch of guys, you want to get someone like Dion, very famous player. And then obviously a big personality wants to come in and coach a school like Colorado and then just transfer all the people that he can bring with him. Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Why wait a year or two?
And before you get into your take on the game, Robert, how do you feel about Dion and his clause in his contract that allows him to censor certain reporters? They've had the big story about the Denver Post reporter who can't ask him questions anymore and all this stuff. To me, this is kind of crazy. I feel like I love Coach Prime and love what he's been doing for the last couple stops at Jackson State before Colorado. But I feel like when you sign up for this sort of thing and you're a guy like Prime who's all in the media, beating your chest, doing all this stuff, that comes with the territory. And you get paid a lot of money. And all you got to do, you're answering questions on your football team. That's that man's job, too, to go into these press conferences, ask you questions, write articles on it and everything. You don't have to like what he writes. That's part of it. Not everybody's going to agree with you. But how do you feel on this? Should Dion have – because Paul Feinbaum's been pretty vocal about it, and I don't agree with everything Paul says, but I kind of do agree with him on this, man. I think it's kind of bullshit, really. And do you think Dion should have a clause like this? It's kind of foolish, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's obviously coaches that play favorites, and that sort of thing has always gone on. But to affirmatively shut out a reporter by contractual guarantee is kind of funny. It's a state university, so University of Colorado at Boulder. It's not a private school, so that raises a whole different subset of legal issues.
Right.
I think I'm of mixed sentiments on Dion. I thought Dion was good for the game in terms of last season, the excitement, enthusiasm, and he's the extreme experiment of transfer portals. Like we saw at Florida State 2 years ago, they hit on everybody, or last year, basically. They hit on everybody. They go undefeated. Mm-hmm. And everybody was assuming, well, their transfer portal worked for them last year, so surely it'll work for them this year. And I looked at some of the players from a talent evaluation perspective. I'm like, no, it's not the same level of player. DJU, if you watch him,
he can't figure it out, can he, Bob?
Yeah, he's just limited. He's a caretaker quarterback at this point in his college career. That's what he was really at Oregon State. When they needed him to win a game at Oregon State, he didn't win it.
He lost to my Cougs. I was there. I watched it. Guys,
yeah, he was in person for that one.
Exactly. So I think that, and that's my question with Colorado, is that it's so massive. I mean, he's turning over the entire roster season to season. It's one thing to do it in the first season, but then he did it again between season 1 and season 2. I'm not sold on his coordinator hires. I thought he hired a great one last year in the Kent State head coach. Then he spoiled on him because he didn't want his kid to get hurt at quarterback because, he didn't go get the offensive line he needed. We'll see how that Kent State offensive coordinator does as the head coach at San Diego State this season. But then he brings in, kind of NFL guys that are known for being on the more conservative side of the aisle. Like he went in such a radically different direction. I honestly don't know what to make of how this will work schematically, but I think there has been a little bit of an overreaction. Colorado doesn't have proven depth. There is a big question about their transition with the new players, but it does at least look on paper that their lines, which were the big problem last year, offensive and defensive lines, are upgraded. I mean, last year he didn't even try to get. He brought in some Kent State guys with the Kent State offensive coordinator. Those guys were not going to translate to the Pac-10, and now he's in the Big 12. I think that works better for Colorado. The going to the Pac-10 never helped Colorado. They're always better off in the Big 12. And North Dakota State, as you mentioned, Will, is not quite on the same page. People see the name, and they think FCS dominant team. They've been sliding now. It was one of the reasons why I bet against Montana State last week. Montana State's still good, but they'd actually been sliding down slightly. And also whether or not these FCS programs, these programs might lose more than they gain from the transfer portal.
Right.
Maybe they pick up some guys that want to play playoff football that are at the higher level. But like at least with Montana State, they lost more of their key guys than they gained. North Dakota State might be in the same bucket. So I think Colorado also, all the negative talk about Dion, if he has any chance at all to run it up, he's going to. He wants Travis Hunter to be in the Heisman conversation. He wants his son to be in the Heisman conversation. These NFL assistants have got a lot to prove, and that's what they're given an opportunity to do at Colorado on both coordinator positions. So if he gets he's got a talent edge here. So I'll lean Colorado to win by double digits in this one.
Yeah, in this one, I think I'm going to tackle this one the same way I'm going to tackle the Alabama game. I don't know if Alabama is going to cover, I think, 35 against Western Kentucky, because I don't know what I'm going to get from Alabama's defense. I'm sure I'm going to get, a good performance, but you just never know. I'm just going to look at team total, because I know, like with Alabama, you bringing in that coach, they got all those weapons. They're going to score points. So I'm just going to look towards the team total. If I were to bet this one, I'd only look towards Colorado team total over, because like you said, they want to be flashy. They want to make plays. And let's say their offensive line is improved and they do cover this number, well, then they should get over their team total anyway. So I feel like that's kind of the safer route than trying to pick a side. Because Florida State's got me all worried about taking big favorites now after getting burned.
You got to be careful there with that. I mean, the biggest thing for me here is I look at Colorado was pretty beneficial when it came to and this is why y'all need the Phil Steele magazine, y'all. But pretty beneficial in the plus in the turnover margin last year. They were plus 11 in the turnover margin there. Teams with a positive double-digit turnover ratio have had the same or weaker record 73% of the time since 1990 right there. They got I think 4 wins last year. They got their win total sitting at 5.5 now. I don't think this Colorado team gets over that. They got what's listed as about the 13th toughest schedule in the country this year, and it just feels like they're going to have a tougher go at it. I don't think they did enough in the transfer portal to improve those offensive and defensive lines. That's where they really struggled last year. And if Shadir can't stay upright, he can't throw the ball down the field. He can't get it to Travis Hunter and do all those things. And I think you would look, when you've got guys like Travis Hunter, you focus solely on taking him out of the game plan there. And if you can do that, the team takes a drastic step back. So it's going to have to see what the lines are able to do. But I think overall, I don't know that it'll factor in as much against the North Dakota State team. But overall body of work for y'all, you still put your futures in and stuff like that. A lot of these teams have not kicked off yet. But I think I like you can get a little plus money on it right now, but I like Colorado to go under the 5.5 wins on the season. I just don't think they're going to benefit from near as many turnovers. And I know they have a lot of talent there, but there's a lot of inner locker room things that are going on that make me question stuff like that. And I still don't think they did enough on the offensive defensive line.
Yep. Good morning, MB. And then Arlico said, at first I was against the transfer portal system, but given the extreme politics with it in teams, the transfer portal can take away some of their power and give it to the players. Yeah, I like it. I mean, why make them wait a year? I mean,
there's a strategy to being able to utilize that thing as well. You see some coaches that do a very good job at it, and you have guys like Dabo Swinney that almost refuse to use it, and you saw it hurt him last year. A lot of people will tell you, Phil still doesn't necessarily agree with that part of it because he thinks that Dabo does recruit well and all of those things, but it clearly was a little bit of a disadvantage last year.
Yep. Next game we got is TCU Stanford. Looks like TCU is about a 9-point favorite. Opened up at 11, but you got sharp money and big money on one side with TCU. 85% of the money on TCU. We got an Action Network expert taking the points of Stanford. Where are we going with this one, Robert, on Friday night?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's another place where there's been counter public movement, so that the public has been on TCU most of the time. And you could see that coming in. TCU is the bigger brand name in recent years. Stanford's been a down program. TCU was in the national title game 2 years ago. Sonny Dykes, a legendary coach, the Stanford coach, a well-respected coach in coaching circles, but otherwise a public unknown. So you combine the two. Stanford now in the ACC, which is ridiculous. The Atlantic Coast Conference is on the West Coast, but TCU in the Big 12. So. But the revamped Big 12, which actually gives them a better chance to win the Big 12 now that there's no Texas, now that there's no Oklahoma, though they had won it with those programs in. Stanford, the interesting thing with this is why. So when you see an anti-public line movement, that's usually a sharp movement. In other words, it's somebody the books respect has saying, oh, our line is too big in favor of TCU, despite the fact that all the public money and all our tickets and all our liability is on the TCU side. So and what that is there's some betting circles that really respect the Stanford head coach if he's given time. If you look at last year, when he had an extra week to prepare, he put up huge numbers against Colorado, and he put up huge numbers against somebody else that was actually pretty decent. He's a great offensive schemer if you give him lots of extra time. And that's what he has for this TCU game for week 1 of the year. TCU has a slight talent edge, but it's not like a huge talent edge. They lost those players that they had from 2 years ago. They've replaced them, hit or miss depending on the position on the roster. Should be a solid Big 12 team. But Stanford he's slowly building a better program there at Stanford, and so I would go with the Sharps. Stanford I would really love it if Stanford got back to hitting +10. You get Stanford as the other factor is double-digit underdogs at home with any degree of national TV coverage has been a profitable bet now for like 30 years. And what people have monitored, does that stay up even if they're on like CBS Sports cable? The answer is yes. And it's because if the game is worth putting on the air, chances are the game is two things. Chances are that the game is a little more competitive than the sports books have it as. And that big home underdog tends to really get up for the game because it's their one chance to be on TV or, one of their only chances to be on national TV coverage. We'll see if that holds up with the proliferation of like streaming options and things like that. But I think you give this coach enough time. I have great respect for Sonny Dykes, but I think especially if it gets to double digits, that's a little much to ask for TCU. It feels like a trap game for TCU, traveling across the country, face a Stanford team that they've never faced with his coaching roster. Stanford given a bunch of time to prepare offensively, schematically for a TCU defense that had all of its. I mean, the last time they were in a game like this last year, 20-plus point favorites against Colorado, and an offensive scheme came out and torched them. So it's supposed to be better defensively, but I'll take my lean will be towards Stanford on this one.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Robert, so to start the season last year, obviously they had a bunch of time to prepare. They put up in Hawaii, they put up 37 points, and then after they played Oregon, they had a bye week, and then against Colorado, they put up 46. So it does your theory and what you're saying there with when Dykes has time to prepare seems to hold up, and we might be able to expect that from this upcoming game. Cricket, how do you feel about the game?
I think this Stanford team is going to be much improved. They only had 6 starters come back for this team last year. Well, this coming into this season, they have 18 starters returning. This is a team that can't really benefit as much from the transfer portal because the qualifications to get in this university are so tough. So you can't have just anybody go in there. And a lot of the guys, when they have guys get their degree from Stanford, you usually see those guys leave and go to the portal somewhere else. So it's a team that does struggle in kind of the transfer portal era there, but they do have 18 guys coming back. And I expect them to be a much better team. This feels like a tough spot for TCU. I'm not mad at even a little half-unit sprinkle on the money line for Stanford, but I definitely think the 9.5 is far too many. I don't think this line should probably be over a touchdown, given what we saw early on from TCU last year in that Colorado game. They can get in trouble with teams like this here. And like I said, with all the experience coming back for Stanford in this one, it just feels like that line is too high for me right there. And I do like Stanford plus the 9.5, and I'm not even mad at your little half-unit sprinkle on the money line in this one.
Yeah. All right. Shout out to AK Millie Goats. What up, buddy? He says North Dakota State is 9-4 against. He meant to say FBS. If Colorado's weakness is the line, North Dakota State can control the pace. If Colorado doesn't get out to a lead, North Dakota State runs the ball. I may look at under and North Dakota State covering. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's probably a good correlation there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because I bet North Dakota State it was about a month ago now, I guess. And I do like that, man. That's a giant killer. Always got to be careful with that team.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
next game,
was complaining about it. He's like, can we please schedule a Patsy, not North Dakota State?
Right. Give me the Portland States of the world.
Yeah.
That's who my Cougs get. And that's the one time I'll lay 30 points with the Cougs because they always seem to have Portland State's number. Outside of that, I don't trust them. I hate them. Clemson, Georgia. I know our buddy CU. He's not in the chat, but he's been talking about this game for months. Let's dive into it. This one's going to be one of the bigger games. And I love this because I do work this Saturday. And Georgia here is that's this Saturday. I don't work this Saturday. So I get to sit home and watch this one. But it's a 9 a.m. I love people always say East Coast is the best. I love being on the West Coast because we get 9 a.m. football on Saturday. We get 10 a.m. NFL football, and Sunday night football ends at like 8:30.
What's that like, man? I don't even know what that's like, bro.
It's amazing. I love it. But Georgia, Clemson, one of the bigger games of this weekend. I'm so curious about Georgia here because they're Georgia, right? They've only lost to Nick Saban in the last 4 years.
I think 2019 was the last time they lost to a non-Nick Saban coach team.
Yeah, and they obviously have all the talent. They're the favorite, preseason number ones, and they deserve it. But they've had all those off-season issues with players getting suspended. I don't know. I haven't really dove into how important a lot of those players are, and I know they're filled with talent, so just plug and play. But how do we feel about 13-point home favorites, Robert?
Yeah, well, it's technically it's a neutral site, though. It's in Atlanta, so it depends on how you look at it. But
Home favorite.
because it's in it's here's where I think neutral site matters. It's because if this game was in Athens, it'd be 5% Clemson fans. In Atlanta, given how short a distance that is, and Clemson recruits Atlanta very heavily, it'll be at least a third, I think, Clemson fans in that game. So it won't be as lopsided in terms of the refereeing and officiating. The public, I assume, is still on Georgia. At least it's been that way all offseason, ever since they posted this line. It hit 14 briefly and immediately dropped back because there were people sitting on betting Clemson, waiting for it to hit 14. And every time it does, they bet Clemson. So if you're waiting on 14, you can try. The public, I think, will stay in on Georgia. Georgia is everybody's preseason favorite to win the national title, the biggest preseason favorite in the odds markets to win the national title. And I get it. Now, Georgia's not number one in talent. They're number two in talent. They're behind Alabama. And Ohio State's right there, right on their heels. Georgia has benefited from the East Division being weak for several years now. They're no longer in that East Division. There is no divisions left in the SEC. Now they got to go to Alabama. They got to go to Texas. I think all the hype on Georgia, I get we're back in the playoff system, and the assumption is that even if Georgia drops those two games, they'll be in the playoffs. I wouldn't necessarily bet on that myself. So there's a lot of, how do you win a national title game if you're not even in the playoffs? So I like Georgia, but I don't think they are quite as dominant as people seem to be thinking in the betting markets. And I get people being down on Clemson. In the transfer portal era, they're a very good team. They haven't been an elite team. And part of that was always going to happen because he was overachieving in recruiting. Clemson should have a top 15 recruiting class. It should not have a top 5 recruiting class. There's not enough. Clemson's utility is it's close enough to Atlanta to really dip into North Georgia. But you're competing with everybody in North Georgia. You're competing with Tennessee in North Georgia. You're competing with Alabama in North Georgia. You're competing with Auburn in North Georgia. And, of course, you're competing with Georgia in North Georgia. So when you look at it from a recruiting ranking perspective, Clemson should be a 15th to 20th ranked program, which is historically outside of Dabo Swinney what they've been. And I think some Clemson fans underappreciate how extraordinary Dabo's successes at Clemson have been. He kept landing on quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, running back after running back after running back. He always had trouble with depth, but he was getting NFL guys and beating out Nick Saban for those NFL guys. It was an incredible run. So of course they were going to take more of a step back, but they're still, if you look at their talent, a top 15 program. And here you can make an argument for Dabo not being involved in the transfer portal. He knows exactly what he's got coming in this year because these are development players that he recruited out of high school that have been there several years in the program. So he's not like the Florida State coach who thinks he has the best offensive and defensive lines in the country and then finds out from the nerds that he doesn't. So I think I look at this game and I'm going to take Clemson on the points. If you get it 14, great. I'd take it at 13.5, take it at 13. I think Clemson surprises some people. We'll see if in the second year of their offensive system can click. They've got some young, very super talented freshmen. There's some questions in Georgia's secondary. This is not the same defensive line that is stacking, the line for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. So it's an elite team. That I think will probably be more of a running team than a passing team this year. So if you like the under, that might be consideration. But Clemson hasn't had a bad defensive line in like a decade. And you look at it on paper, there's no reason why this defensive line shouldn't be an elite defensive line. And when you can do that against a team that is without Brock Bowers, without their top receiver from last year, that frankly Georgia hasn't recruited depth at wide receiver now under Kirby Smart all the way. He usually gets one guy, and that's it. And he just lost that number one tight end, number one wide receiver. Running back room should be better. That it's been a couple of years, so probably a little bit more. And I like the QB, but do you look at that QB and say this guy's going to be the top 5 pick in the future NFL draft? Not really. He's more of an old school Nick Saban, early era Alabama QB. Somebody's going to be the backup somewhere. So I'll take Clemson plus 13.5.
Do we have a teaser leg here, possibly? We do a little 6.5-point tease, get Clemson up to 20. That kind of feels nice.
Absolutely.
Clemson's going to keep it close.
Or if you wait until it hits 14 and you snag him on a 7-point teaser, you get him at 21.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Cricket?
Yeah, I think this game right here is going to be played Mercedes-Benz Dome. Clemson will travel very well. It's not going to be like the Oregon game a couple years ago where you don't have near as many fans in the stands. It should be split about 50-50, maybe 60-40 Georgia, something like that. And Clemson, had their streak of 12 straight seasons with at least 10 wins snapped last year. Started out 4-4, struggled out the gate a little bit there. Wound up losing a game to Florida State, which they never trailed in regulation, and missed a game-winning field goal right there at the buzzer. So, this is still a solid team. Dabo's obviously a great coach right there. I would expect him to bounce back. It always scares me betting against these Georgia teams, but you also got some question marks there. And I'm not as high on Carson Beck as a lot of people are. I know the guy's a great player and everything, but I do think he's more like of an A.J. McCarron type guy, more of a game manager. I don't know that I know he's got great arm talent and all that, but I just haven't seen him really have to beat you with his arm yet in his career at Georgia because obviously all the talent around him there. But it does feel like 2 touchdowns could be too much in this one right here. Like I said, they're going to be fired up for this one. Dabo's going to have his guys ready to go there. Clemson was actually plus 92 yards per game in ACC play last year, despite that 4-4 record. Fumbles and missed field goals in the red zone was a big Achilles heel for these guys. The field goals should be much better this year. Got some more experience there. As long as you can hold on to the football, protect the football, this should be a much, much better team here. And I expect to see Clemson take, pretty much a pretty big step back to the top of the ACC where they've been for the last decade or so now this season. And we obviously seen Florida State fall off. We saw that last weekend in the loss to Georgia Tech over in Dublin. So I think Clemson, I think it's a tall task to expect them to get a win in this game right here against the Georgia team that everybody expects to hoist the trophy in the end. But 13.5 feels like it could be too many points right here in this game. So I think I'm leaning Clemson as well.
I think I'm there with you guys. I'll probably end up teasing that one. But part of me is just like, I'm just going to probably stay back and just watch this game because I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 28-0 at half and Georgia's just dominating, because it is Georgia, right? I mean, like I've seen this story before.
Yeah.
There's better bets I think I can find throughout the week, and I could just sit back and enjoy a good football game, hopefully a good football game. But
they beat an Oregon team 49-3 a couple seasons ago. That was a pretty daggum good Oregon team.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I want to skip ahead to one game because you guys are going to have to I got about 25-ish more minutes, and then I got to head out. But you guys will continue the show. But I want to talk about Miami and Florida because there's been a lot of hype around Miami, right? This off season. I feel like we see this every single year. Everyone gets all excited and drinks Kool-Aid that Miami's back. But one reason why I'm curious about it too is everyone's hyping up Cam Ward, and that was my quarterback last year. And listen, he's fun, he's flashy, but I honestly think the guy's not that great of a quarterback. If you watch him, he holds the ball down way too much. And then when it's like 3rd and 12, can he make a play? Absolutely. He can scramble around, but sometimes he gets in his own head and he tries to do too much. And more times than not, he ends up making a bad play. Just from me watching him last year, because granted, he was playing for the Cougs and we're not that great of a team, but still, you could just see some of those instincts he has. Is if he can't hit his first read, he wants to improvise and trying to scramble around and make something happen. And sometimes he gets a little too cute, especially when the game's on the line. So I don't know how that's going to work down in Miami, but I'm curious about how you feel, Robert, about Miami and Florida here.
Well, that's the main point. I see all these people that have forgotten about Cam Ward's limitations. That, he got a big paycheck. Apparently a $2 million plus paycheck to play 1 year in Miami. So, credit to him for getting getting the cash. But if you watched him play at Washington State, he was very up and down. Like I see all this analysis as if he's an obvious Heisman favorite. And like, did everybody just forget have amnesia about half
He's
his
the
games.
second favorite. And I'm like, what are we doing? He's like 7-1. He's the second favorite. I'm like, no, don't bet that. Bet the no.
Exactly. So I mean, I think I'm still a skeptic. Granted, Florida, experimented with the Southern Miss defensive coordinators, heavy blitz scheme last year. They didn't know what they were doing. The players in half the games, defense fell apart most of the time. So I can get where he brings in another older veteran to try to balance out the defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator jobs to see if they can come up with some sort of balance. He won't be on the hot seat just because of how tough the schedule is. But if he loses to Miami in the first game of the year, he will be on the hot seat because you can't lose to your in-state rival in Gainesville, given that he has almost no equity built up there in Gainesville. And the president that was part of the whole president's gone, the former senator who took over, senator from Nebraska. Now there's a scandal about the Florida president. He was hiring all his buddies at fat contracts. Well, what do you think you're going to get when you hire somebody from Washington, D.C. to run your university? But I liked this coach when he was at Florida coach, when he was at UL Lafayette. Miami, Mario Cristobal, great recruiter, has hired some great coordinators this season, but this is the guy that single-handedly loses you a game every single year. I mean, forgetting to have the quarterback kneel down. How do you do that 3 different times in your college football career, like Mario Cristobal did?
How does that happen once, let alone 3 times?
I know it's just astounding. And so it's like I'm supposed to another game where you'll see all these prognosticators in press say, "Oh, this is the most talented Miami team." Well, I'll tell you right now, on paper, Florida's got more talent than Miami, and they're playing at home. I mean, at least from a recruiting ranking perspective, most recruiting rankings have Florida's existing roster more talented than Miami. It's like, and it's amazing the convenient memory, selective memory you're seeing. I call it memento memory after the movie Memento. Memento. Like they'll highlight Miami's incoming transfers in the receiving core. I was like, but when they talk about Georgia, they'll talk about Georgia getting Miami's best receiver. It's like, but somehow when they talk about Miami, they don't mention that Miami lost who they say is their best receiver when they talk about Georgia. So you got a new quarterback in a new offense that has struggled with consistency, playing against a Florida defense that has a lot to prove with a new defensive coordinator and a lot of talent. And then you got Florida's offense. People forget Mertz really was good last year. He was just hurt on and off.
Yeah.
So yes, they lost Etienne to Georgia as a running back, but they got a decent running back room. And that former UL Lafayette coach has never struggled to run the ball wherever he's been. So if Mertz does at least, I get Percival's in the 49ers camp, but the young creative freshman they had last year before he got banged up showed real potential. So I'll take Florida catching points there in the Swamp.
Okay. A quick funny story about that, Cricket. When I was in high school, we were so bad that I was a freshman and I was the starting quarterback for the varsity team. That's how bad we were. We won one game, and I was so used to us being so terrible and having to spike the ball at the end of the game that when I was supposed to knee it because we were leading and knee out the clock, that I instinctively spiked it on accident. My coach was pissed because then we actually had to convert the 4th down instead of just kneeing out the game. So I get how you can have a little mental lapse, but also I wasn't a college football head coach, but I get it happens every now and then. But Cricket, how do you feel about this game?
Miami there started strong last year, 4-0, got as high as number 17 in the AP poll, and then had that debacle against Georgia Tech where they could have just taken a knee. They had a 453-yard to 174-yard advantage in that game and still managed to lose it on a Hail Mary there. And then you've seen them, they played well, wound up beating the Clemson team last year, but then had some struggles in a couple games they had no business losing right there. And Mario Cristobal is the biggest question for me. You bring in all the new guys. They got Damian Martinez, a running back from Oregon State, to go along with Cam Ward there. Pick up a guy like Zach Carpenter at center to come in, and C.J. Clark on the defensive line. So they did well in the portal, and like Robert said, Cristobal is a great recruiter and does this well, but can he put those pieces together throughout the course of a game? Florida's going to be a much better team this year. This is a team that I do like their win total to go over, sitting at 5.5 right now. I expect them, they're coming off a 5-7 season again, but a plethora of talent down there. You got a solid quarterback that's a veteran guy that's played a lot of big-time football at 2 different universities now. Billy Napier is a great coach. He's been able to he can do a lot with a little in spots, and it's hard to win in the SEC. He's in year 3 now, should be primed and have all his systems in place. His whole everything that he wants to do with that program should be coming together at this point right here. So I think 5.5 wins for this team is way too low. I feel like this is way closer to probably an 8. Possibly if they can steal a game here and there. They only have 4 true road games this year. Play Georgia at a neutral site in Jacksonville, so only 4 true road games. So a pretty favorable schedule there. If they can handle business in the Swamp, this could be a team that really surprises the folks this year. And I think 5.5 is far too low on that win total. So Miami better come out ready to play, or it's going to be you're going to hear a lot of real upset Hurricane fans early on in this thing. But I think Florida definitely at home right there catching points. This should be closer to a pick in my opinion. So I'll take the 2.5 for Florida as well.
Yeah, I think everybody's talking about Florida having the toughest schedule in modern college football history is making assumptions about the quality of LSU, the quality of Ole Miss, the quality of Miami that I think are not well grounded if you look under the hood.
I agree.
I think I might have found another teaser leg too. So, I mean, we'll get those
I
points
love that
up.
as a teaser leg. Get that up to 9.
Yeah. Okay. Next big game, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. I am curious about this one. Now the line has moved. Notre Dame did, I think it was their starting left tackle, got injured. He's not going to be in this game, so that was huge news. But I saw a lot of people that I respect in the sports betting world that were all over Texas A&M, and as you can see, back when this line was like 1 or under 3. Yeah, and we can see we got sharp money and big money, and 89% of the money on Texas A&M. I usually don't like to pile on that side, especially now that it's 3. So I'll probably be out on this one. But Robert, how are we feeling about Notre Dame? Seems like a lot of people are anti-Notre Dame this season, even though they're probably going to win. They're only going to lose 2 games and find themselves in the playoff because it's 12 teams now.
Yeah, it's because they're not in the either the Big Ten or the SEC, so they don't have a brutal schedule. Stanford's been a little bit down, USC's been a little bit down, and that has impaired the quality of their opponents. But you got to give them credit for traveling to one of the toughest places to play there in the Aggie land in the 12th man. People are making a lot of assumptions about Elko. It's like they think Elko's going to get there and immediately turn this program into a defensive juggernaut. It's not going to have the inconsistency it's been riddled with now under Jimbo Fisher and his predecessor, Summerlin and other guys. I mean, that A&M has just not been consistent since Gene Stallings was on the sideline. People forget the old Alabama to A&M connection going all the way back to Bear Bryant days. That's when A&M has been successful. Otherwise, they've been a hit or miss team, up and down team. And you look at the Irish, I mean, they bring in Riley Leonard from Duke. I think they'll give them stability. I mean, the reality is last year, the quarterback experiment didn't quite work as well. I think you look at this coaching staff, it's a defensive coaching staff. I think they're going to be better with a run-oriented offense than they are pass-oriented offense. It better fits who they are systematically and schematically, and they bring back the LSU offensive coordinator who did a great job with Jaden Daniels. So, I mean, I look at talent, and Notre Dame has a slight edge here. So I get if A&M was a 3-point dog at home, then I would be on A&M. But now they're a 3-point favorite at home, and the public's pouring money in as if that Connor Wegman's just going to turn. I mean, he's played how many games that guy managed to stay standing up. So I'm not quite sold that Elko will have an immediate turnaround. I have a lot of respect for him. The other factor is look at these defensive coordinators that become head coaches. Look at Pruitt at Tennessee, some other places. Often they don't work as head coaches. They're often great as coordinators. And when they're no longer calling the defense, their defensive skill set tends not to matter so much. And I think there's assumptions there. So now that I had planned on thinking I was going to get A&M, I was hoping, earlier in the year, A&M might even get 3 and a hook with a lot of hype around Notre Dame. Now there's been too much hype the other way. Yes, Notre Dame has some young players on their offensive line, but they're talented players on that offensive line. A&M has some talent in that defensive front. I'm still not sold on their secondary. I'm not sold on their wide receivers. I mean, Evan Stewart's gone, and he's up in Eugene now. He, too, was looking for a paycheck, and somehow the Aggies managed not to give him one. I don't know how, because he was our best wide receiver.
Like they ain't got no money down there.
Yeah, exactly. But they're paying Jimbo. Maybe it's because of Jimbo. They'll be paying Jimbo for like 20 years.
That's right.
Don't give a guy a $110 million buyout. Just FYI. But
it's fair.
I didn't plan on it, but now that it's a field goal, and I'm thinking it might even sneak up to 3.5, given where the public is trending, I'll take the Fighting Irish and the Catholics down there in Aggie land.
Yeah, and I feel like every year Texas A&M, because if correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, you've been high on them the last few years just because of talent wise and kind of like as a sneaky sleeper team, but they never seem to put the talent together and always seem to disappoint. So I don't know that that's going to change this season at all. So I don't know. I'll probably end up watching this one, or like you said, if it gets a 3.5, maybe I'll get some Notre Dame action or maybe tease them up. Cricket, how you feeling about this game?
This is what I'm probably going to watch more just for intrigue, and you can learn a lot from these games. Some of these early games in the season, you're not going to be able to learn a lot about some of these teams. You look at like Kentucky versus Southern Miss or something like that there. But you look at the games like the Clemson, the Georgias, the Miami, Floridas, this one right here, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. You learn a lot about both of these teams. You're going to see all this stuff you've been hearing for the last 3 or 4 months come together and how they can put it together for a body of work on the field there. So I'm going to be watching this one more for what I'm going to do with these teams going forward there. But I do feel like Notre Dame getting 3 right there. I'm with Robert. I think this should be flipped the other way around. Notre Dame being slightly favorite with all the question marks for A&M. Love Mike Elko. Love what he was able to do at Duke. Got a lot out of a little up there. Now he's going to be – and another thing, too, you got to remember, his quarterback last year at Duke, Riley Leonard, is now the quarterback at Notre Dame. So Mike Elko probably does know how to scheme against him, but in the same turn, Riley Leonard faced this defense every day in practice. So he may also know some little tweaks and things like that there. So for me, there's a lot of question marks here, and I have a lot of question marks for both these teams. But it is going to be a game worth watching this week to monitor for the rest of the season because I think you will learn a lot about both of these teams. But I feel like a field goal for Notre Dame is way too much right there. So I'm on the Irish as well.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to have to bounce out of here, and I'm going to let Cricket run things from here. But before I head out, I want to share this with you. I got to go sling some pills. But since we have over 2,000 of you here, I want to promote this new channel that I started. It's called The Uncensored Pharmacist. For those of you that don't know, I am a pharmacist, and I created this channel and we did a couple live streams this last week, and they were pretty successful. I can't believe people actually want to hear about our corrupt and crazy healthcare system. But I created this channel because give me an outlet to vent on some things, but also I feel like our healthcare system is so screwed up, but my generation, especially the younger generation, don't understand exactly what's going on, and we need to talk about it. So you do know, so that I mean, why would they though? Why would you understand? You're young, right? You don't have to worry about it. You don't really care about your health premiums, or you don't worry about it until you actually need your healthcare and deal with insurance every single day and whatnot. So Uncensored Pharmacist, I'm going to drop the link in the Rumble chat. Go check it out if that's something that interests you. And we'll talk about political stuff and stuff like that. But the next thing I'm going to talk about on there will be a recent thing came out about the statin medication, one of the most common prescribed medications in the country for lowering cholesterol. The data actually shows that it doesn't really help. It doesn't really prevent any cardiac events and whatnot. So it's something that they might have known about in the 70s and 80s, and Big Sugar kind of got involved and decided to fund someone else and blame trans fat on all our health issues instead of sugar. So we're going to dive into that because it's very interesting. A lot of those drug studies, you can't read the headline. You got to actually dive into the data because the headline is so misleading. It's like accounting. You can make the numbers look however you want and say a certain thing, but that doesn't mean that's actually what it is. So that's an Uncensored Pharmacist. Go check it out. Robert, I appreciate you hopping in here with us this morning. Yes, Cricket?
Before you go, can you are you gonna have to end it on Rumble?
Yes, I was about to say that part.
Will you,
unfortunately, the way we have it set up, I can't have the Rumble thing go. But we are live on X and YouTube right now, both mine and Cricket's X and YouTube. So I dropped the YouTube link if you guys want to hop over there to listen to the rest of the games and the rest of the picks. And then I will upload this whole thing, the full stream, over to Rumble. So you will have it eventually on Rumble. One day we will figure it out how we can run everything through Rumble Studio through here where Cricket can control everything. But right now, this is kind of how we have to do it. But we do love Rumble Studio and everything that they're doing over there. But gentlemen, you guys have a good rest of your day. Robert, thanks for joining us. Did I hear this correctly? You're going to try to hop in here with us weekly on Tuesdays?
Yeah. Try to do it throughout college football and pro football season.
Awesome. That's going to be fun. Well, gentlemen, you guys have a good day. I'm going to go sling some pills and whatnot.
You have a good day,
Later.
sir. Be safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
See ya.
All right. Robert, we're going to talk about this. I think we missed this game just a little bit, but I want to look at this Penn State-West Virginia game right here. Penn State been a team, a lot of talk about them the last couple seasons. They can't seem to get over that hump and beat the Ohio States and Michigans of the world, but they can beat about everybody else in this thing. Then you got a West Virginia team that's kind of resurgent last year. You had, I think it's Neil Brown, their head coach, I believe, but he was on the hot seat kind of coming into that season, and he's done well. He's been on the hot seat the past couple seasons, really. I mean, that guy's been real close to getting fired a couple times, but it seems his players like him. They will go to bat for him in this thing. So West Virginia at home right here. getting 7.5, north of a touchdown right here. So what do you think on this one? Give me the opinion. Is Penn State, is this finally the year? I mean, obviously you got 12-team playoff expansion, so should get a shot at some meaningful games down the stretch as long as they handle their business there. But what's your opinion on this one? Is this line too high for this Penn State team?
It was one of the futures games we gave out at Sports Picks as a game of the year pick. When West Virginia was 10.5. And so this line has moved massively in West Virginia's favor, even though it's not the public betting the Mountaineers in this backyard rivalry. So at 7.5, I probably am not going to bet it either way. I would lean for my lean for the show would be West Virginia because you're still getting over a touchdown, which is a key number. I think that Penn State, going on the road, playing a West Virginia team that actually the score last year was misleading in many respects. That game was much closer than it appeared in the final score. Some late scores by Penn State. They're going to be going nuts there in Huntington, West Virginia. I think the Penn State should be good and should be finally make the playoff now that it's a 12-team playoff. They would have 6 of the last 7 years. The schedule's not so tough that they can't probably afford to lose this game because of Ohio State and other games left on their schedule. But it could be very close. Now, the flip side is, Franklin has a history of running it up against local rivals when he's got a talent edge. So that's the X factor in the game. How good is the young quarterback for Penn State? He was a little up and down last year. Does he really deliver? West Virginia is a very run-heavy offense. Does that work against the talent of Penn State's defense? Though they're having to replace some key personnel. And they got new coordinators on both sides of the ball. I liked it when those double digits, West Virginia on national TV, playing at home in a rivalry game. Don't like it as much at over 7, but I'll stick with the Mountaineers catching more than a touchdown at home.
I'll tell you, this game right here could be a sneaky under spot. Set pretty high at 51.5 right there. But you got two teams that love to run the football. You got two studs in the backfield for Penn State there. It's another game. You're going to find a team trying to set the tone and control the line of scrimmage early. So, I expect this game clock will be running more throughout the game there. So it may not, might not want seeing somebody, especially if Penn State can stretch it out and, get to a double-digit lead. I think you'll see that clock really shorten up in the second half running the football for them there. So 51.5 feels like it could be a lot of points in this game for me. I think I'm with you. I'm probably wind up staying away from this one altogether. The line's probably right on where it could be. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see Penn State win this thing by a touchdown and get a lot of people hooked that take the Nittany Lions. So I'm probably going to stay away from this one right here. I do have a lot of questions. I want to see, not so much questions. I just kind of intrigued with Penn State. See what they're bringing back. I know they lost some key guys, lost the big offensive lineman that went in the first round there. So you got some guys you've got to replace there, but you got a lot of talent littered throughout. And I love James Franklin. I mean, anybody that can win at Vanderbilt can win about any damn where. So I do like that guy, but I like what I've seen out of the head coach at West Virginia and the talent and the guys, the way those guys rally around him there. So this is one I'm just going to stay away from, but it will be another one that I pay attention to and see what we can find on these teams going forward. Next one you wanted to look at, Uncle Bob, was UCLA and Hawaii here. Hawaii let me down. Will beat his chest about Delaware State all last week. I told him he was a damn fool. He told me Hawaii wasn't even going to score 40 points. So after a while, I didn't even want him to cover the spread. I just wanted him to score 40. They couldn't even do that for me there. Only winning that thing, I think, 35-14 or something. But it's a Hawaii team expected to be much better. And UCLA with their move to the Big Ten now. What do you expect out of this game? What do you expect out of UCLA going forward this season?
So, early Hawaii was a hot pick in certain smart money circles in Vegas. Then last Saturday happened where, Hawaii didn't even get to cover, half the spread. Now, the X factors there were against a Delaware State team that's truly thought to be awful and had trouble with, getting flights out there. The flip side is it was a bad weather game. It's the major wind there on the island, and it was impacting the passing game, and Hawaii is a run and shoot offense. The second factor was Hawaii had made very clear it was going to show literally nothing and because it was focusing heavily on the UCLA game. So they were going to be very, very vanilla. And Hawaii is not so stacked with talent that they can survive being very, very vanilla. What people have, had expressed concern over is that Delaware State managed to drive the ball a couple of times on them. And they're like, Delaware State shouldn't be able to drive on anybody above the bottom of the the subdivision there.
There's some high school football teams right now, some of the better ones that could beat Delaware State by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where the concern is Hawaii's defense. On the flip side, UCLA is traveling out to the island. They got a tough schedule. They got a new coaching staff. Chip Kelly's gone. He decided he didn't want to deal with the NOL, the NOI era, and so he was out to Ohio State to be offensive coordinator to help his former protege win the national title. The UCLA defensive coordinator that drastically improved their defense, across towns to join USC. The UCLA head coach has not inspired people at his media days. Had some peculiar answers. They lost some key personnel in the offseason. Dante Moore, their highly touted quarterback, transfers to be the backup at Oregon rather than start at UCLA. So they lost some key defensive players off that team to the NFL that really upgraded them. And you look at them, they just look really average as a team, and they look like they'll be at the bottom of the Big Ten. And now they got to travel to Hawaii. It's going to be nuts out there on the island. The crowd's going to be crazy. Fans are going to be going berserk. The Hawaii players have spent the entire offseason looking forward to just this game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, teams teams that haven't played yet in week one against a team that has played in week one, generally that has favored the team that has not played because they've got no video footage on them, right, and there is video footage on the other, though you had to do $70 pay-per-view to see the Hawaii game.
Right.
But Hawaii didn't show anything. So I don't know if that really matters at all. They played as vanilla as they possibly. It was designed to be a misleading game so that they could trap UCLA. And this has been one of those overreaction week 0 deals, where this line was trending down and now it's trending back up. In some cases, over crossing that key threshold number of 214, and different places you can get them 14.5. The money is pouring in on the UCLA because of skepticism about Hawaii from week 1. And probably because a bunch of people chasing their losses during the race. People had Florida State and had Montana State and had SMU, maybe even had them teased down a little bit, maybe had them in some parlays. They all got crushed. So they always chase Hawaii as the late night game. And they're like, surely they're going to run it up on this Delaware State school, not checking the schedule, not checking the weather, not checking the wind, and not checking the coaching staff, which had been saying all offseason they were going to do nothing in the Delaware State game at all.
Right.
So I like Hawaii catching 14 or more. That will be my lean on the game.
That's what I'm thinking. You also got the factor. You got to remember these are still 18 to 22-year-old kids. You're going down to Hawaii to hang out at UCLA. Delaware State wound up not getting in until they had some flight delays and all that stuff there. So they didn't really get to enjoy the full experience. But UCLA will probably go down, on Thursday or something like that and be there for a couple days. And are they really focused on this game? A game you should win. You're 2 touchdown favorites. You've made the move to the Big Ten and all that. And I'll tell you right now, I think that, I know UCLA and USC were the first ones to jump, and then Oregon and Washington followed suit there. But I think of the 4 teams, those 4 teams, I think UCLA and USC might be the ones that regret their move to the Big Ten much more than Oregon and Washington. I think Oregon and Washington's style of play and the talent disparity there, I think will benefit them much more in the Big Ten than it will the USC's and UCLA's here. So I just feel like this is too many points. I think, like you said, a lot of people are going to look at what Hawaii did last week against Delaware State and expect UCLA with such a talent advantage to come in and blow the doors off. But you got to remember, there's a lot of other things going on. First game of the year, you got jitters, all that different stuff. You've been building up to this for months. You can be too hype in football. You can be too focused in some spots to where you overthink it a little bit and wind up making some key mistakes there. And, Hawaii comes out and winds up putting up a 7-10 point lead early on, and UCLA, now all of a sudden, then buttholes start to tighten up a little bit, and you're battling back the whole game, trying to get back in this thing. So it could be hard for them to be able to cover a 2-touchdown spread right there if that happens. And I think this is going to be too many points with all the extra stuff going on around this game right here. And you talk about Hawaii being hyped up for this one for probably over a year now for these guys seeing this one on the schedule. So I think that's going to be too many points right there. And a lot of people are going to try to, like you said, recover their tough Saturday with a late night Hawaii game. And I'm telling y'all need to stay away from that stuff because that'll get you in trouble way more times than it won't. I promise you, those games don't always go over like you think they will. So just be careful with that one right there. This is another one for me, probably ultimately a stay away game. But I'm telling you, just be careful for UCLA bettors out there because it could be trouble and it could get you. The book will thank you for your donation. I promise. They didn't build them big shiny buildings off winners. So next one, this is a big one right here. this is a big one. Speaking of that USC team, they will be welcoming the LSU Tigers to town in this one. You got LSU. They've lost the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Jaden Daniels, went number 2 overall in the draft to the Commanders there. You got a USC team with a lot of question marks. Also lost their quarterback, number 1 overall in the draft, in Caleb Williams there. So you got 2 new signal callers coming into this game. And LSU got to travel across the country, play out in L.A. in a big-time market and all that stuff. What you think on this one? I think that I've seen this line here, and I feel like I think it's sitting. The last I saw it was 4.5. USC is getting it's 4 now. It's gone down since yesterday. So USC plus 4 at home, minus 108 there. You got a total of 64 high total in this one. Plus 154 on the money line for the Trojans. What do you think of this one? I think that I was leaning USC yesterday when I saw it at 4.5. Now I'm seeing that line go down the other way. It makes me feel even better about it. This might be another one. I might put a full unit on the Trojans on the money line here. I think LSU's going to take a little step back here. They lost a lot. What do you think in this one, Bob?
Well, it was another bet that we gave out early at Sports Picks when the game of the year or various first week games lines were posted. And USC was plus 7 playing here in Las Vegas at the new Allegiant Stadium from a couple of years ago, the Raiders Stadium. So LSU is crossing the country a lot more than USC is, but I'm sure LSU's fans will probably even travel better than USC's fans. USC fans.
This is neutral site.
Yeah, neutral site.
Allegiant Stadium. Okay, my bad, but it's still some travel there, but definitely a difference.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, USC should be more of a home favorite, given that this is a half day's drive, not a half a day's plane ride.
Right.
But it's LSU and it's Las Vegas. So, you combine the two, it'll probably be more LSU fans than USC fans in the crowd.
Probably.
But the Bayou Bengals, there's a reason why this line is moved the way it is. So you look at it from a talent perspective, USC is just as talented as LSU. So the game, USC never should have been catching points in the first place, is my opinion. And you look at LSU, they lose Jaden Daniels, who set records for his rushing success. And the new quarterback can't run the ball at all. And then their top 2 wide receivers are going to be probably playing on Sundays, not just on Sunday rosters, but 2 of the best rookies in the league. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do you lose your all-time quarterback or one of your all-time quarterbacks and your top 2 wide receivers and not expect a major step back offensively?
Right.
When you don't have those kind of personnel talent-wise replacing them. I mean, still great offensive line, but weaker elsewhere. Way weaker elsewhere. And then defense, this was one of the worst defenses in college football last year. And all they did is change coordinators. They really didn't upgrade the talent at all. And so it's like, why are they going to suddenly be better? So I see an LSU team that's been way overhyped coming into the season. That people are just kind of ignoring their huge glaring weaknesses and limitations and hoping a new defensive coordinator will magically fix the defense and hoping that the offense doesn't take a major step back despite losing their quarterback, their coordinator, and their top 2 skill position players on the outside. Then on the flip side, you have USC. I think people are thinking, oh, Caleb Williams is gone. That's it. I mean, this is Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley's offenses have always been good. Loses Baker Mayfield, still good. Loses Kyler Murray, still good. Loses Jalen Hurts, still good. So why is it suddenly going to lose Caleb Williams and not be good? I mean, he even made Spencer Rattler look like an NFL quarterback in his freshman year.
Right.
So we've already seen what Moss can do in the bowl game. 6 touchdowns, 300-plus passing yards. Exactly. Receiving core is good. Offensive line is good. Running backs are good. There's some question marks on the offensive line, but I think it will be solid. So, and he really likes to do a complicated RPO offense that if the offensive line is clicking and against this LSU defensive line, it should be, then he always puts up points if that works. So the flip side is USC's defense has been bad. But by the way, USC's defense was still not as bad as LSU's was last year.
And you forget that too.
Defensive coaching changes. LSU is banking on a guy that briefly coached in Missouri. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. USC not only brought in the great success at the UCLA coach that turned that defense around, but I mean, they have some of the best defensive position coaches in all of college football.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a question mark about whether Lincoln Riley's practice style, namely that he wants the offense to be executing on its timing plays to such a degree he limits defensive contact, that whether or not that's why, wherever he's been, his defenses have been subpar, not just poor defensive coordinator or missing on talent. We'll see, because the defense should be better. But either way, I look at this, there's every reason to believe the USC offense will be better than LSU's offense, and every reason to believe USC's defense will be better than LSU's defense. I look at coaching top to bottom, and I like USC better. And I look at the game being played effectively on West Coast time out in Vegas. And I look at what's coming back versus what's missing. And I think the wrong team is favored. I would favor USC by a field goal. So I'm definitely taking the Trojans, even at the lower line of +4.
And I agree with you. I see you over there in the YouTube chat, Super James. I was thinking about you yesterday, man. Been missing you in here. So hope all's well with you, sir. But yeah, you talk about replacing a guy like Jaden Daniels, the first FBS player ever, I think, to throw for 12,000 yards and rush for 3,000 yards. That's a whole lot of productivity. And then you take his top receiver there, Malik Neighbors, who was also a top 10 pick to the New York Giants. And that is a lot of production you got to replace immediately right there. And I've been watching these lines in these games that are played in Vegas. And now that I know this one is being played in Vegas, that makes me kind of my ears perk up a little bit, because I feel like on these games that are played in Allegiant Stadium, Vegas is pretty on point with these line movements. They don't tend to miss these by much there. They know there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of fans in town betting on the game on site and all of that. So there's going to be a lot of action on this game right here. So they tend to focus on these lines pretty good. You know, they're not going to miss these right here. So I think you got to be real careful when you see a line that was sitting around a touchdown and now it's come down 3 points in favor of the Trojans. You got to be real careful in that spot. And I love USC in this game, and I'm seeing the line continue to move that way. I think you go ahead and hop on it, because it may move down more closer to a field goal there. So go ahead and get it right now at +4. Take the extra point. That way, if they do wind up getting beat by a field goal, you still get your win in that thing instead of the push. But I think it may go down another half point to a point by the time we get the kickoff on Sunday. This is a Sunday game. It's be Sunday night. But, yeah, I think that I love USC right here. This might be my top pick of the weekend in this spot. So
probably sprinkle a little on the money line. You could also tease them up to 11.
Oh, I love all of those. I'm putting a full unit on the money line, a full unit on the spread, and then you go ahead and get your teaser leg there. We've gave y'all a few good teaser legs in this spot for this weekend. So make sure and look at all that stuff, guys. There's a lot of different ways you can bet these games, and a lot of different ways you can be profitable in these things. So then the last one, you want to talk about one more we got in here. We got to talk about for all these.
Monday night college football.
Man, we love that. Love Monday night college football. But there's a lot of people that probably chomping at the bit to get back on the field after Florida State had their little debacle last weekend. It did not look very good against the Georgia Tech team. We expect to be a lot better. It looked better down the back half of the stretch last season there. You got the weird travel over to Dublin and all that stuff going on. That's always a weird deal there. But they did not come out and handle business. I mean, they were 10.5-point favorites, I think is what it closed at, and wound up losing straight up by a last-second field goal there. I think a 44-yard field goal that came through for Georgia Tech to get the 24-21 win. But is Florida State in a bounce-back spot? It's a Boston College team that, I think, is it Bill O'Brien that's up there now, the head coach? So we love that guy. We know what his, track record in coaching at all different levels there. So this guy knows a lot about football. He's got some talent up there at Boston College coming back for him this season. So is this could God forbid, but could the Florida State Seminoles start out 0-2 in this thing?
Well, this is another game that at Sports Picks we gave out early when Boston College was +22, +23. So we got a lot of closing line value. As I think it's under 17 now in many sports books. It's 16.
15.5 is what it's sitting at on DraftKings.
Off of key numbers. So hopefully we don't just end up with a little closing line value trophy for some of these. But it's another one that if you're an early member subscriber to Sports Picks, you've already cashed in. We'll have a discount that Cricket will be giving out through the end of September for new monthly subscribers. You just enter the discount code 2024 and you get half off the monthly subscription price. So less than $1 a day for all the political bets, football bets. You'll get hundreds and hundreds of bets. Be paying less than a dime a pick.
Best value in sports handicapping, isn't it?
Oh, without question. Less than 10 cents a pick. Most people charge 10 times or 100 times that amount for picks, and they don't have anywhere near our success rate 3 years in a row turning a profit for Sports Picks members. So great time to get, just discount code 2024. Real simple throughout September. Cricket will be giving it out here on the show the rest of the month. But I look at this as an overreaction. So I was betting against the Noles. I gave out Boston College when it was close to +23, but now under 17, I think is too much. I mean, first you got Bill O'Brien has a running quarterback. Is he going to try to convert him into a passer? Because he's not a good passer. If he tries to pretend he's Deshaun Watson, it's the old Deshaun Watson, not the current Deshaun Watson.
Right.
They got to go back to getting Deshaun some nice masseuses. It's like Tiger Woods. Tiger was a lot better off when he had all the orgies.
He was better than, wasn't he?
He sure was. He was a heck of a lot for all the people betting on him. Bring back the orgies for Tiger.
He wasn't near as stressed.
Exactly. But I wonder about Bill O'Brien's fit with this quarterback. This quarterback's really a running collegiate style quarterback, not a passer. And I'm worried about that aspect. Florida State just got embarrassed on national TV. This was a team that had national title hopes, and now they're battling for their playoff lives early in the year. Boston College's defense does not have a new defensive coordinator to the level of the Georgia Tech's defensive coordinator coming off the Elko coaching tree that had prior success against this Florida State offense. I mean, it's a new defensive coordinator, but we don't know how good he's going to be. And talent-wise, Boston College is a lot weaker than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had been snagging some players through the portal, recruiting some guys that just landed one of the top offensive linemen in the country for next year.
Very active.
Yeah, so they've been in ways at Boston College. There's a reason why the coach fled. The coach fled because the talent level kept going down, down, down. They're in Beantown. So for Sports Picks members, we'll have a nice middle in this game. I like Florida State. I'll lean Florida State minus 16.5 because 17 is now you could, if you took Boston College early in the year, 22.5, 23, you threw the key numbers of 17, 20, and 21. Those are all common numbers in this kind of game. So I think the Noles bounce back in this one.
I think so too, and I think it's actually probably foolish if you were able, as a Sports Pick subscriber, to get the 22 or 23. I think it's foolish not to bet Florida State for the big middle there. You got over a touchdown middle in that thing, and even you look at it, even if Florida State winds up blowing the doors off and covering the 23, you're basically breaking even right there. So, and if you can land on that 17 to 20 mark, which is probably where this game's going to land, in my opinion, then you wind up doubling down. You're cashing both of them right there. So I think if you got it at 22 or 23, you got to turn around and bet Florida State now at the minus 15 because that's just too big of a middle. And you've seen it move through all of those key numbers like that. And like I said, if you just win one and lose one, you're going to break even right there. But there's a chance to really pile on in this thing. And Florida State, you expect to bounce back. You're not going to see a team like this. They're hearing it. They've been hearing it all week, all the social media stuff, all the stuff you and I are reading every day and hearing, they're hearing it too. Probably more so. They're probably more focused in on it. You expect DJ to bounce back. That guy, he has games where he comes out and looks like the player they expected him to be when he was coming out of high school as the number one overall quarterback. And then he has games where he looks like he doesn't even belong on the field. He doesn't throw the ball downfield a lot. I think he had something like 9 for 11 or 10 for 12 for like 96 yards with a negative 0.1 air yards in the first half last week. So, I mean, they're not throwing the ball downfield a lot there. But you look at a Boston College team, you should have a huge talent disparity right here. And then you got the chip on your shoulder coming back. No, you can't go fall. I mean, it's bad to say your season's over after week 2. But if they were to lose this game, their season would essentially be over there. You're going to see the fan base fall off. They're going to start calling. We know in college football, it's what have you done for me lately? They don't care about the undefeated season last year. You started 0-2 here, Mike Norvell, that seat's going to warm right back up the way it was before last season. So,
yeah. And last but not least, if you like teasers at 16.5, you can get them to 10 or under. That might also be another way to cash in on both sides of the line.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different, once again, guys, a lot of different ways you can you can do this and be profitable on this. You can look at team total overs or unders. There, you like under in a game, but you worry about one team being able to put up some points. But Alabama is a team that comes to mind when they're playing a lot of the Western Kentuckys of the world. I kind of like the over in that Western Kentucky game, but just kind of an example. Those smaller teams, a lot of times those teams can't do anything moving the ball against the bigger squads like that. So you look at those teams like, say maybe a Western Kentucky team total under there because they're probably pretty high. Had a good offense last year, but you look at the team total under, and you can even we love to do the anti-correlated parlays around here where we'll take like a team total under, but we'll take the over for the game and something like that because it winds up boosting your odds up pretty good. What you would normally get like maybe a 3 to 4 to 1 on, you wind up getting 9, 10, 11 to 1 in some spots there. So we love the anti-correlated parlays around here, and I think this could be maybe a spot for something like that. there. But I do expect Florida State to bounce back. And like I said, if you've already betted at plus 23, favorite Boston College, you got to bet the middle now too.
No doubt. Well, thanks, everybody. Again, if you want to help put the odds in your favor, you can join sportspicks.locals.com. Profitable years back to back to back. One of the most affordable, accessible sports handicapping services out there anywhere. And again, for the month of until the end of September, you can get a monthly subscription at half price with discount code 2024.
Absolutely, y'all. You got to take advantage. That's what we like to call closing line value around here. And I promise you will make that money back in one weekend, probably one game in most spots, depending on what your unit size is. And if you do join Sports Picks, you can go into the content section. Some of you may be very new to this. You can go into the content section. We have all kinds of how-to masterclass videos that will teach you how to choose the right sports book, how to navigate this stuff and all that. So go check those out if you're new to this, because we have all that stuff over there at sportspicks.locals.com, where we turn the odds in your favor. Uncle Bob, we appreciate you. This is always a great time. I know the chat loves it. So we're going to look like we're going to do this weekly now.
Yep. Should be back with the games of the week for college and pro football each week on Tuesdays when I can make it.
Looking forward to it. They also can find you. Is it Friday nights? It's over on Sports Picks on Locals. You do the betting with Barnes.
Yeah, you get exclusive Q&As at I answer every single question at Friday night betting with Barnes, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Sportspicks.locals.com. One of the many benefits to being a part of the service. You get other people's free picks. You can make your own comments. You can make your own picks and suggestions. It's a great, vibrant community. We have a live chat open throughout all season that people are in and out of throughout the weekends, giving out free picks, live picks, etc. So come and join the fun at sportspicks.locals.com.
Absolutely. Shout out to all you fine folks in the chat. You know we love y'all out there. All the new faces that came in here to see Robert. We appreciate you guys coming in. Smash that like button. Give us a follow on the channel. We're approaching 6,000 followers now here on the Game On channel. So we got some new content and stuff coming for you guys. But we appreciate you, all of you in the chat. Y'all are the real MVPs. We will be back with y'all bright and early tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 4:30 a.m. Pacific for your Sports Morning Espresso Shot, where we cover all the latest and breaking news in the sports world. We'll be looking at some more of the lines for this weekend and all of that. So come back and join us. And Robert, once again, we appreciate you. We'll see you again next week, guys. So come back and see us in the mornings. And until next time, good luck, good gambling, and game on.